I got some
Doing
music.
something. It looks like we're live.
Live.
We're live.
Not in color.
Right. You have a little music, Jimbo?
Yeah. Oops. Sorry, I just realized I muted that because I was like, I'm going to be good tonight.
Okay, that'll work. Yay! This is something retro. So, welcome to a special edition of the Arcade Hangout, coming at you from Elon Musk's satellite high in the sky, rotating around the Earth. Yes, we are here with a bunch of friends that like to get together every so often now and talk about arcade games and media and Disney Plus and all that kind of fun stuff.
Disney Plus.
And
but they don't care about that.
Yeah. We're still the longest running live arcade podcast
thank you,
on
Gak.
YouTube.
Yes.
Maybe not the most beloved, but we've outlasted a lot.
We are the underdog,
but the most unstructured show there is.
Yes.
and that's on purpose. We just like to hang out, and since we all live in different parts of the United States, it's still a way that we can get together even during COVID. We have our events, our arcade events that we would go to, and we miss doing those, but I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for COVID and get together again soon.
Amen.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But for tonight, we have true Atari legends with us.
And then there's the rest of us.
And some other people too.
And then I got dropped in.
False Atari.
He had a couple things, you might have heard of.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through game lists and stuff. We'll save that for discussions and stuff, what everyone's worked on. But I'm going to hand this off to Lewis to do some proper introductions to everybody that's here. And thank you to Lewis too for working hard and gathering these legends for us to chat with, because we're big fans of everybody's work. And this is just a really truly special moment for us.
Months in the works, maybe even a year, right, Lewis?
We talked about it a while ago too. So
probably a year or so, maybe longer.
Pushing a little bit.
So this is really great.
Thanks, Mark, for the intro. Sure. Of course, everybody's from Atari. It's been a lot of fun getting a hold of each other and talking. Some of you we've had on the show, and you've talked about your projects and games and so forth. And so let's do like a hand wave. Ed Log, I think you're at the beginning of all this Atari business, at least on clock time compared to everybody else. And we'll dive into games. I was going to ask everybody.
Guys, started off with an error. There you go.
All right, let's start over. All right, I'm gonna go. We're gonna go offline.
Welcome to episode 255.
Take a drink. Told you guys I would mangle this. No worries.
Change your name back to Whiskey Danger.
As you read the name, maybe they can raise their hand and say hello, and maybe say what their favorite game is that they worked on in the golden era. Maybe
crowning.
That sounds like a good idea. Favorite game of the golden era. So Ed Log.
Well, I joined Atari in 1978, and Owen Rubin was already there. So yeah, I wasn't the first, but I'm probably one of the oldest guys here. I was like 30 years old when I did 31 when I did Asteroids, or when it was released. So I'm sort of the old man of there. There were a bunch of young kids running around when I joined.
Great, Lewis. Now they're never going to want to come back on.
Yeah.
As far as my favorite game goes, well, that's really tough. I like Centipede. I like the Asteroids. I like Gauntlet. I mean, it's really hard to pick.
Well, that's a nice top three, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll let that slide.
The ones you're taking to your desert island, right?
Cool. All right, and then moving on in no particular order, Ed Rothberg.
That's a good order.
My favorite game that I worked on from the early days of Atari would be Battlezone.
Awesome.
And I'm very thankful to Ed Log for many things, but tonight particularly because he saves me from being the oldest one here.
Stole your girlfriend away too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh,
This is kind of stuff we're gonna hold off
I was
on.
asking
Come
about
on, you
that
guys.
pre-show.
Let's get through the
actually.
intros first.
That's supposed to
We can tell what
be
movie
on
it
the
is.
hour.
Did not see that coming.
Wow.
Zing.
Already out the gate.
Right into Dr. Phil.
All right. So, what was the favorite arcade game that you created of the golden era, the classic era?
Well, wait.
He said Battlezone.
Oh,
He said
Battlezone.
Battlezone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Say Battlezone. Yep.
Oh, I thought I was having a senior moment there for a second.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm old too.
You still talking to me?
Sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay. Then next up at bat, Owen Rubin.
So
And
I
favorite game you worked on?
I
Favorite
probably
game?
am the earliest person. I was like programmer number 4 or 5. Depends on where you fit Dennis Coble in, but my favorite game is obviously Major Havoc. So
Yes.
it haunts me to this day, and there is a new version coming out. Hopefully at
Haunts
California
you.
Stream this year.
Have you heard anything
Yeah,
about that? Are they
With
talking
the
would be
vaccines,
cool.
maybe.
I watch Jess's check-ins on Get all the time and look at what he's doing. He wants to be done with it this year, he said. So he's close.
That's exciting.
Great.
Promised End. All right. And then we're going to jump to Peter Lipson.
Yeah, so I was there, the newer group coming in after these guys had been there for a while. Several of us came in that year. It was 81. Probably the most fun, or the game that I'm best known for probably is Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, and that was very cool. But
Yeah.
the fun ones are that I seem to remember the best are Shoes and Relief Pitcher. Those were pretty entertaining to work on.
Love Shoes.
Shoes is such an awesome game in the bar. I just have to say, because we played it in a
Oh my
tournament
god!
and it was
yeah.
so
What
fun
a
to play.
perfect countertop. Thing.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
I'm happy to hear that.
that's exactly what we set out to do because arcades were going down a little bit. We were all getting older and hanging out in bars a lot, and we wanted something that would work there. So
Well, you succeeded
In fact,
in my
if I
eyes. but-
remember, the
Yeah.
one-line description is a game that can be played with let's see,
Beer in your-
with a beer in one end after having two. So,
After having to, yeah.
there you go.
Oh, kind of like darts.
Exactly.
That would have been
yeah.
great
Oh,
if it said that in the game, like in the attract mode.
Here. Play with the sound.
Yeah.
Cup holder.
All right. And then moving on. Last but not least, Bob, you're the first person that found me of the Atari bunch. And I want to say thanks for that. It's been a pleasure knowing you for the last year. And please tell me your favorite game.
So I joined Atari in '84, and I gotta say, Marble Madness is probably still my favorite game
Woo!
that I worked on. But my favorite game outside of Atari was Robotron that Ed introduced me to, because he had one in our lab area, and I spent hours playing that. But
pretty
Marble
awesome game.
Madness. Marble Madness is mine, yeah, or not mine even. I mean, Mark Cerny designed it. I
You
just
guys had
programmed.
non-Atari games in Atari?
Oh,
Oh,
there
yeah.
lots.
Yeah, we
was
had
a
to see
big
what the
thing.
competitors were doing.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
A lot of wasted time deploying those games. Yeah.
Mine especially.
I'm sorry, a lot of research. Sorry.
Yes.
It's
It's
all
not
research.
cheating if you enjoy it. Yeah.
No. And if we're getting paid for it, it's research.
I specifically, being a beer drinker myself, I would have loved the research on Shoes that, needs to have a beer in one hand and playing the game with the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I do this? Yeah. How about after
Yes.
2? After 3? Yeah.
You tell Atari execs, okay, now to test this game, we're going to need a 12-pack of beer every day.
I think by then we had a keg in the office.
I'm saying,
Oh,
Of
okay.
course.
Awesome.
Right
And
up
a
Gag's
couple
alley.
of cots.
Yeah.
I would think you would need some cots to take you
Yeah.
down.
Did you really have a keg in the office?
every Friday.
Good
Friday
old
was
days.
good.
What kind of beer?
Buried.
Yeah, because that was pre.
What kind, Dave? Free. What other kind is there?
That's fine.
Cold and free. Yeah.
Bud, Miller, and whatever else. PBR.
For sure.
Yeah, they
All
weren't
right,
getting a lot of
Orange
microbrews
National
then.
Orange joined us. One of the questions that I had queued up was who worked together the longest out of the five of you? Because there was a lot of people coming and going over the years, right? So who
Probably
worked the
Owen and
longest
I.
with each other?
Yeah, I would say probably Ed and I. We actually shared an office with one other person for quite a while too.
Dan Pliskin, yeah.
Dan Pliskin.
But then after I left Atari, I went to work sort of for Owen at Apple.
Wait.
But after he came to work for me at Vidya,
That's right.
and then we worked together. Certainly at IL, but Innovative Leisure. But is anywhere in between? Probably somewhere.
No, I don't know. I used to always say when someone asked me for references on a resume, they say, someone you've worked with, a personal friend, and someone who worked for you. So I just give them Ed's name.
Well, Bob Flanagan and I did 3 games together. Actually, 4, but 1 we killed. But we did 3 games together, so that was about over 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
We did
nearly.
Gauntlet 2 and Zybots.
Peter and I did Fire Beast
My
together,
family took
never went anywhere.
from Ed.
And Blasteroids. I do have to say that when you had that screen behind you, Mucor looks way too much like the COVID virus.
What, the tree?
Peter and I worked
Kinda
together
scary.
too on a couple projects.
Probably I didn't work until Apple.
Yeah.
We've known each other.
Indiana Jones for the NES,
Right.
and I think I was one of your 2
Scott-
testers on Relief Pitcher. Oh,
Yeah. Well, John Solwitz and I interviewed you too when you came in, so
yeah.
claim some credit for getting you started here.
Yeah, that was I think my first real job interview, and I was scared all the heck. I wore a suit. I wore a suit to that interview, and they were like,
You too.
So you almost didn't get hired because of the suit. Like the exact opposite of what you were hoping for.
Is that when you wear like a pair of shorts under your pants just in case?
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Velcro tearaways.
No one told you otherwise, Bob? I mean, I remember when I was interviewing, I can't remember who was the president at the time. I got a call that said, if you wear a suit, we're not hiring you.
Oh my God.
Don't come into the suit.
Seriously,
Wow.
I was living in Chicago at the time. I interviewed for Atari, and Steve Calpe, after a phone interview, had flown out, and he was staying at the hotel at the airport, O'Hare Airport, and he asked me to come. And I just figured you wear a suit to an interview. I'm from the stuffy Midwest, and I walk, knock on his hotel room door, open it up. He's wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt. And I think what got me the job was the first thing I said to him before I said, "Hi, I'm Ed Rothberg." I said, "Thank God," and I took my tie off and put it on a chair.
That's great.
Yeah, Mike Alba interviewed me, and I don't remember, since I worked at Control Data across the street at the time, I probably came over in a suit and tie.
I'm trying to remember. I was there when you interviewed. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember that though.
I don't remember talking to you about. We're talking about.
I wasn't on your interview list.
No.
Give us some interview questions. What did they ask?
The Fred
That was
question.
Mike Alba asked me because
the
I just
Fred
built.
question. I still use
Fred
that.
question. Everybody asked the Fred question.
Yeah.
You guys speak 6502?
Ah.
The Fred question. See, that was after I started. So
That was.
So repeat the Fred question.
It was
Somebody with a better
XOR,
connection to it. I'm missing.
And 0F, XOR FF. What does that? Let's see. XOR.
Yeah. How do you insert a couple of bits in there or something like that?
Insert four bits.
oh, it was an
The
exclusive order.
low nibble into
Yeah.
into a word or whatever from a memory location. Yeah.
I always thought your license plate came from an interview question, Ed.
No.
You guys know his license plate? Did he mention that?
What's the license plate?
It's 2B or D4.
8-bit humor.
Hexadecimal humor.
And,
To be
and
honest
it's
with you, I've had it,
very literate too.
I've had it for about 35 years, and only 3 people have ever walked up to me and said, "That's great," or "Not to be."
Now you need a much longer license plate and a lot more Fs.
I was like the question. Actually, I thought it was called Fred. I don't know who I got it from there, where you write a function that the input is a 1 or a 2, and you have to return the opposite.
That's right. We played with that at work.
Find, there's like five ways to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Using different language methods, and then just make the person think about each of those things by removing features of the compiler or the processor. You can't have any math. No logic function.
No if statement.
No if statement. There you go.
I like the one that says, "What's the fastest way to swap nibbles in a register?"
Exclusive or 3 times.
6502.
Yeah, exclusive or 3 times.
No.
Oh, and 6502. Huh?
6502 is the table lookup.
Yeah.
But
That was
there's also the nibble, the one where you and the value in the register with F0, and you shift the left once, and you load it and you bring it in again. So you've created a gap so that you can move through the carry.
Didn't you guys get asked? Didn't you guys get asked the question, what was the fastest way to clear a page of memory? That was one of their questions too. And being the smartass, I said turn off the power.
That's a good answer.
It doesn't clear memory. It just leaves memory in an unknown state.
Not until you turn it back on, though, Ed.
Yeah, right. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Is it alive or dead?
Schrodinger's bits. Yeah, I like that. I think the best interview question I was ever asked was by Microsoft, and the question went: you're standing in front of a door, and there are 3 switches on the wall, and there's a light inside, and you can do whatever you want with the switches, and then you can open the door and tell the guy which switch turns on the light.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I was a smart ass, and it turned out to be the right answer.
So what was your answer, Owen?
So you turn on the first switch, you leave it on for about, a minute and a half, turn it off, turn on number 2, open the door. If the light's on, it's number 2. If the light's off and you touch it and it's hot, it was number 1. If not, it's number 2.
All right, that's clever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the heat thing. Okay.
I have no idea what that had to do with being a computer programmer, but it was an interesting question.
It's just thinking
outside
the box.
I think Peter is the only one of us still making games. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I used
Just
to be
shipped
trying to
Crash
compete with
Bandicoot.
you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What, Peter?
Love Crash
All these years.
Peter, what'd you ship? I didn't hear that.
Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, the time one, right?
So it's been a whole. It's about time. Crash Bandicoot.
It's about time. That's it.
Right next to me. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be really good, but really hard.
Oh yeah, I can't play it at all, and but apparently
you can program it.
Apparently that's what the people who like Crash. Yeah, that's what.
It's like a Mark Cerny answer.
People who want Crash
Is Brent involved in that, Peter?
are get. I don't all get done.
Peter's speaking.
Peter's frozen
or something.
Locked up.
Losing internet for me.
We lost you for a minute.
Randomly here.
Hang up and redial.
Yeah, I'll respond randomly.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Thank you for calling.
You're back.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, Peter, was Brent working with you on that? Or were you working with
Brent?
on that?
Yes. Yeah, Brent is now my boss.
Yeah, Brent is a guy we hired to Silicon Entertainment with Moncrief's company,
Yeah.
So
Rich Adam was working on it too.
Peter, where are you working?
Toys for Bob.
Ah.
Yeah, another long heritage company. Paul Ritchie and Fred Ford were working there. They're the Star Control guys.
One of my favorite PC games, or Apple games, or whatever. Dark Control 2. Still, you can. There's a version of it that'll run on modern computers out there.
There's an emulator for everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what parts are you coding for Crash Bandicoot?
Oh man.
A thing like that. I mean, I guess by modern standards, it's not huge, but there's 100 of us, so by now I'm not. And it's done on the Unreal Engine, so kind of just jack of all trades on that thing. Yeah, it's Toys for Bob was always a studio that worked on scripting engines anyway. So that a lot of the designers now, they're pretty good, but in the early days too, you could get kids off the street and within a month or within a week, they could be knocking out simple games. So that philosophy is still a little bit there.
JavaScript.
Scripting is fun. All the Sims games were based on either their own internal scripting engine or eventually C# and then Python.
Well, you remember Chris Crawford's game, Legend of Saboot?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty obscure, but it was very cool. Saboot was a little alien who would, in his dreams, he'd go around the town and talk to other people, and then they'd play rock, paper, scissors in the day based on what they learned in their dreams. But you'd have conversations with a pull down menu, on the verb and the object, and you create sentences just by dragging out. And the scripting language worked like that. You didn't have to type anything. It led you in the right direction. So it was Fred Ford's very cunning invention, and that lasted for probably 10 years or 15 years. They did a ton of the games in it. Not sophisticated for modern stuff, but it was good up till about 10 years ago.
Peter, where are you in that picture of everybody standing in the office?
I was wondering the same thing.
I was trying to find you in that picture.
Wait, I don't see the picture.
Wait,
I don't see
on your front.
Can someone pull it up?
The Toys for Bob website.
Can someone share that?
Well, I just want to point out to everybody here that whoa.
There we go. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find you in that picture that I can't see you in there.
Come on.
I see him. He's on the right side. Behind the guy with the reddish shirt.
Right here.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, what do you know?
He's being pointed at.
Yeah.
Very good.
Who's the guy
between the two sound guys?
Yeah, just follow the red shirt guy. He's pointing at you.
One of the lead sound guys. Yeah. Yeah, a guy named Matt Copeland.
Where's the office? Or where was the office?
It's in Novato. It's in yeah, no kidding. It's the old hangars that are down near the bay, Ignacio. In Novato. It's actually very cool.
Go ahead, Peter.
I like those cube walls. Those are
yeah, it's that building. It's an old airplane hangars. That was a military base through World War II. They filmed one of the Indiana Jones things there when there's those Quonset-shaped hangars where they drive around. But they turned it into offices. When we built ours out, we were working on Madagascar, I think, at the time. So someone went out and bought a bunch of partitions from a landscaping shop. And we built out kind of a tiki hut, kind of like the old Disney jungle ride kind of feeling to the place, with thatched roofs over everybody's cubes.
The tiki room, yeah. Mai Tais every Friday, right?
Oh yeah.
Mai Tais.
Yeah, we have.
You don't have a beer bash; you have Mai Tai bashes there.
All right, we'll go with the better camera. There we go.
There you go. Nice.
Oh, the DSLR, fancy.
Yeah, fancy.
Or the focal length too.
Doesn't look real.
That's real. That's
like
real
3D
lens
now.
board. That's not.
That's production quality, is what that is.
That's lens board, not.
Oh wow,
that's the lens. That's the lens. So, but Peter still has a room that looks like he's 16 years old with the posters on the wall.
Peter, I was gonna say when you left to get a beer, I was gonna say, Peter, I wanted to say, does he still live at home with his parents? I have to
Actually,
say,
my son.
Thanks, David, for insulting our guests.
no, but it might have been his son's room. But
Coming on again, you
Yeah,
asshole.
really. That's yeah.
it was just a great room. I'm like, what's on the
Yeah.
posters?
It looks
Dan
like a
left this
Vans
room-
box on his bed
Yeah,
too.
he's 30 now, but and he's actually in a room downstairs working from home too. But he left this room decorated when he went off to college 10 years ago, and we haven't done anything to it except
Oh,
put
I
my
love
computers in it.
It's like a
I
time
love
machine.
time capsule.
there you go.
Yeah.
But you sitting there was awesome.
Is
I'm
Wham
like,
on the
this guy's
walls?
Great.
Yeah.
Rick Astley.
George Michael.
George Michael.
Will your sons let you change the room?
He said
or are
30,
they,
not 40 or 50. Yeah.
Yes.
Different world.
my sons are a lot not quite as old as Peter's, but they refuse. They get really angry every time we talk about changing their rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he actually wanted to have this room up here for sleeping in, and then the big room downstairs for his office. No, that's sorry, you're giving it up. If I get an office, and also this is a second story and it's got a view outside, so it's much nicer. So he can have the big room, but I get the better view.
Gonna put a pool table in there and make it the place to be.
Yeah.
Maybe a Robotron.
Yeah, or Robotron.
Yeah.
Just please don't put a man cave sign in there.
That was one of our questions actually that we were gonna ask Andrew. What was the game out there that you guys saw that you went, oh damn, why didn't I come up with that? Or damn, that's such a good game. You know what? Do you guys have anything like that you can think of? Came out in the golden era.
Well, there was a game called Arkanoid came out when I saw it first. I said I'd done Super Breakout, so it's like, oh God, why didn't I do this?
That's right. Yeah.
Super breakout.
Or why did they steal my idea?
Yeah.
Well, like all of those games are based on Breakout and Super Breakout.
Pong, really?
They're all just basically Pong, yeah.
Pong, yeah.
Pong, yeah.
But there are other games that I looked at that I thought were really good. I mean, Tetris.
Space Invaders.
First time
Yeah.
I saw that, I said, oh, we got to get a license for this.
Wait, Ed, we passed on Space Invaders. It was offered to Atari.
So
was
what's
Pac-Man.
shit.
So was
I thought it was
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
And engineers went, oh, that sucks.
Oops.
Yeah.
No,
really?
Don't trust engineers.
Wow.
Oh,
That game is
these are the
just
kind of things I
garbage.
want to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. It stinks.
Atari was
remember
like, yes, Rally X. Yes, Rally X.
No.
Yeah.
Tinkerbell.
There were a couple.
Tinkerbell.
There were a couple in the early days we were offered to license and sell, and that was those two that engineering went, yeah.
But then think of the flip side to that. How many other like Midway and stuff is like, God damn it, Atari.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, they wish they'd gotten Kangaroo.
Or Gauntlet that just sucked up a lot of
Almost got
Kangaroo.
it out.
Hey, it is an underrated game.
What
I
was
was going to
the
bring that up, but
what was the biggest surprise? Was it the biggest surprise that everyone thought was a bomb? They're like, holy crap, this made. Was there any or no?
that's a good question.
Was there any that was like we thought this was, let's put it out there and see, or not really, or you kind of had a feeling? Was there any one game that like surprised everybody? Like, wow, okay.
Yeah, what was the Exidy game where you're supposed to shoot the ghouls, but you actually shot the humans with the crossbow? Was it crossbow? The first one.
Maybe.
Chiller. Yeah.
Chiller.
So there was this whole big rule early on in Atari. You didn't shoot people, you know, guns against people. And when they saw that at the show, everyone, oh my God, they'll never get away with that. And that's gonna die.
Well,
And
I
then people
thought
played it.
Berserk was the one that fooled me, because Berserk was a game that was tuned by the control, how bad the controller was, and I just said, no, they're not going to accept this. I was way wrong.
I love Berserk. One of my favorites.
Because that's a like a gimbal stick or something, right? Or something like that. Analog. Is that what they call
I
it?
don't know.
Isn't that your Slack character, Bob?
I think it's just my Slack character is the humanoid. And I have in the picture I have a Berserk. My dad bought it for like $110 for me at the gold mine.
Nice.
Was that an inspiration for Zybots, the humanoid thing, like the speech and stuff? Stop the humanoids have been destroyed.
Was Ed's, so Ed Log.
Zybots was originally called Catacombs, and it was the Gauntlet characters in a maze. And it started because Doug Snyder came into me and told me about a game that was done on a PC where they could draw vertical rasters. And we didn't have any bitmap hardware. So I was trying to figure, well, I could do a game like that if you had motion at 0, 30, 45, 60, and back to 90 degrees. So I sat down and wrote some stamps out and figured, yeah, I could do a maze game with those angles. And so it was that. And then marketing came back and said, no more Gauntlet. So I did 2 characters that are Major Havoc-like.
Yeah.
But I go back to your
game.
question about surprise about Gauntlet, which is, I think, I don't know if anybody else was, but I was surprised we didn't get more sales on it, actually.
It was a big cabinet, but you're right. I'm surprised we didn't get more sales. I mean, we still did very well.
Oh, yeah.
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 Kick butt in the arcades, right?
I think that's
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
direction we got more, right? Where we thought we'd have a big hit and it wasn't. That's more typical.
Well, this was 1985. And it's
was the decline. Yeah.
Yeah, we were right at the one.
I thought Warlords would be just huge.
But at the same time, Williams was selling
It is now.
more.
It's got a great afterlife.
Yeah, it is
of their
now.
games.
Warlords is a great game.
That's a highly sought after game right now. With the
Warlord-
cocktail.
Yeah,
The
Warlords is the only
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
The cocktail.
Talk about
upright was
another
a
farm,
fail.
right? I mean,
No one. The only good thing about the upright Warlords is
That's got to be one of the few games where the cocktail is way more sought after than the upright.
Yeah.
Because it's
it makes more sense
and
that
the 4-player,
Yeah.
the 4-player is just so much better than the 2-player.
Yeah.
That's the main reason.
Yeah.
and the
But
6-player was
remember-
even better.
They got a lot of people to gamble at Grinkers.
Oh, and do you remember the first field test for Gauntlet? I mean, for Warlords, when they sent out the 2-player Warlords, how it failed field test when it fell off the truck that was taking it.
That was Warlords that fell off the truck?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that's what the game was. Okay.
I
They
was
brought
there.
back the cabinet in pieces and just
Oh,
brought it
man.
to failed field test,
That was the inspiration for
That was
throwing
the
the
field
game off
test.
the balcony.
I was the most
That was
senior
the drop
person in
test.
Atari. When Greg came back in and said, oops, I turned the corner and the game went off and pile of pieces. And I told him, nobody's hurt. Okay, fine. Bring all the pieces back. We'll worry about it on Monday.
Yeah.
Were you there yet, Ed, when they did the big Star Wars and the plastic bubble that never went?
I
So
don't
remember
that.
in the first Star Wars movie, that when Luke is sitting there in that bubble when he's got the gun that goes up and down, they thought Rick Moncrief, if you heard his name before, thought he could build a mechanical game with this chair that moved up and
that'd be
down,
sweet.
and it was projected on this bubble, and they got it all built up, and they wanted to put it out in field test, and they never measured to see if it would go through the door.
Oh no!
I swear to God, they were actually talking. It's one of those tilt-up buildings. Like, could they remove a section to get it out of the building?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It was huge. It was huge.
Like
Wouldn't
Strike
fit in this
Avenger.
office. It was
Like Strike Avenger, Owen.
Strike Avenger was huge. I always tell the
How about
horror story
Sprint?
of that game flipping someone upside down. Were you at the field? Were you at the test when that thing flipped the kid over on his head? Yeah. And we were like, oh, we're going to get sued. We're dead. And the kid climbs out of this thing, unbuckles the seatbelt and climbs out, giggling up a storm. And he goes, I want to do it again.
That was awesome.
That was the
That's what he said. We're
first
like,
4D game.
Yeah.
There was so much
It's so
software and
immersive.
hardware to keep that from happening. And it shot that thing up, broke the cables, and flipped it right upside down.
Jesus. I wonder what the parents were thinking.
I don't know if the parents
Probably
were
not
there.
there.
hopefully.
Parents weren't there. Parents were never
He
gonna
was
get with us.
giggling up a storm.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Sprint 8 was one of my favorite large games.
Which one?
He
Sprint
linked
8.
it.
Yeah.
It's
that's
like
great.
one of the ones that I got started on the arcade based on that game.
You don't see those anymore though.
No.
Sprint 8. and
Drinkers
and
didn't
for me,
even
it was
have that.
Tank 8. Bob, I don't know if you ever saw the 8-player Tank. too.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
see the Tank 8. I just love this. I love the gameplay, the steering wheel spin.
And then
on the
I remember
Sprint
seeing
game.
it at CAX one year, the Sprint 8. Someone
all
had to
played
work
it.
on one of the circuit boards or something. And there was like this big old rack of circuit boards in there. Like there's a full-size circuit board for each steering wheel, basically, for each player.
Oh wow!
There was a
It's
bunch
like a
of
huge
boards in
setup.
there, like 24 boards or something.
We all
I
played
remember.
that.
Right? Seriously?
I don't know. It was a lot, but
Yeah.
I laughed
Yeah.
at Tank 8 because Tank 8, when it first came out, the other tanks were supposed to play computered, so the ones that people didn't play. So if you were by
Okay.
yourself, you'd have other people to shoot at. And they found out that during field tests, people would walk up and think they were playing the tank when they weren't.
Yeah.
So they said, "Oh, we'll take that out." So they stand still when someone starts. So if you start by yourself, there's not much to do. But they left all the code in for a track mode, and that was in my lab when I first started there. And at lunchtime, all these execs would come in and they'd sit around it, betting money on it. So they'd pick a colored tank. It would do the track mode and stop. And they'd collect the money and they'd wait for it to go to the track to start again. They'd all bet on the tank.
Awesome.
It's like the way they made money, not in the way it was expected to, right?
Hey, Ed, do you remember our first Steel Talons field test? Now, that was a big cabinet.
Oh God.
That was a huge cabinet.
That was a big cabinet.
Field test, though. I gotta say that was a project I personally had a lot of fun working on, because working for Ed Log was an eye-opening and educational experience, and I loved the heck out of it. I mean, I really enjoyed working on that project. Well, except at the moments when things blew up in the code, and you never enjoy those. But that was a fun project for me.
I'll agree with you, Ed.
That was a project that I asked Rick Moncrief, who it was hard driving hardware, and I asked him to change the microcode to allow us to do fogging, and I gave him a method to do it. And Jed said, no, you can't do that. You can't do it. So I went back and found another method to use in the pallets. So we had fogging put in. And Ed Rothberg probably doesn't remember this, but I came in one time and Jed Margolin's in there showing his girlfriend, or showing a girl the fogging effect on.
Oh, that's rich.
He was so proud of it. And it was just, all right.
I think if Jed didn't create it, it wasn't his idea. It wasn't going or something. I don't know.
Jed was great, but
You're gonna get Jed calling in.
I had to push pretty hard to get Atari to move towards a perspective correct texture mapping hardware. Jed and Rick were convinced that was not a thing that needed to be done. So I worked with Alan Gray to create a hardware that did that.
Well, there was a lot of cheap solutions that people did. I remember the networking on Steel Talons was a single line DAC or something like that. There was no networking chips that were cheap, so they found something.
This was before networks.
Yeah,
exactly. Well,
Space Lords was the first networking game that we did.
Which one?
Well, yeah, but there was a serial connection between those things. I'm pretty sure.
I think there was shared memory, if I remember correctly. We had shared memory at some point.
Robert,
I don't think
Space
so.
Game before Battlezone, didn't that have a network between two units?
What, warp speed?
Yeah. I thought that had two cabinets connected together.
We originally were going to have two cabinets, but I don't think we ever connected them.
Although it says, "Are you man enough?"
Cyberball used shared memory for the two systems. Space Lords used a token ring network chip that we got. I don't even remember the manufacturer because I did the programming on that, and it was time sensitive. The code that was written to do the networking was time sensitive, and we cheated. We used a V-blank sync line in the cable to force sync on the two or on the multiple boxes.
Wow, that's actually pretty clever.
It is.
I remember one of the biggest problems we had was collision detect matching up on the two systems.
Oh yeah,
that was a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it was Ed's idea to do the V-blank sync. We were having problems with getting things at different parts of the frame and everything, and he said, "Well, let's just sync them. They're in the same cabinet." And
yeah, V-sync over.
and then the network cable to other cabinets could do the same thing. So why not?
That's the one that's like it's a 2-seater, right? And it looks kind of like a girder on the side of the cabinet, kind of like a big metal beam with holes in it. Is that the right cabinet I'm thinking of?
It was a side-by-side 2-player sit-down cabinet. It was really wide. But the first field test was interesting because I was out there watching the first player get in and play it. And the kid practically jumped out of his seat when he got shot.
Right, we had the feedback, some thumping the seat.
No, we've turned out that the voltage to the we used a pinball thumper, you know, for like an extra game in pinball. We use that under the seat.
Right.
And unfortunately, we over voltage and it was way too hot. He really got whacked. Like, take a hammer to your rear end.
Who did the networking code for that?
We never played arcade games again.
we did all our own code for that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That. Okay.
Other than the 3D rendering stuff that we got from the hard driving team.
Right.
What's the what's the red and yellow arrow pointing to?
Yeah.
In the left corner, bottom corner of the screen.
I'm guessing.
Maybe the joystick or something on the control panel.
Yeah.
Pointing out the controllers.
Thought maybe it was pointing at the coin slot.
Yeah, important thing.
Yeah, that machine, like early on in my collecting days, there was a local miniature golf course that closed down, and they had a handful of arcade games that they were getting rid of. And the guy tried to give it to me for $50. And like it worked, but both monitors were kind of fuzzy. And I'm like, I cannot take that. That machine is so huge. That's like an automatic divorce. If I show up at home with that machine, the wife is divorcing me, You
can have it if you get rid of all the other games. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They did have a Terminator 2 upright, which I did take for $50 though. But
wow.
Yeah.
He just didn't like the 2 monitors because he doesn't know how to do cap kits.
That too, yeah.
Well, when I got that T-Mac, which I would assume it might be a little, it was 1994. That's an Atari too. Yeah, that was 6 feet by 6 feet, and the only reason I picked it up because at the time I was living in an apartment, and just like I am now, and but I was engaged, so it's like, well, this is gonna fly. But I went after it because my best friend at the time, that was his favorite game, but he was living in an apartment. But I was like, I can pick this up for cheap because it's a ginormous game, and I know it's your favorite game. He's like, yeah, do it. And so that was a permanent piece of furniture in his apartment for the next year when we were restoring it. But yeah, it's just like that two player cockpit and just a monster. Yeah. But he still has that. That's in his basement, and his wife is cool with it. So
that cabinet was big for Ancient, the triple hunt cabinet.
Yeah.
With the 2 pipes that ran to connect the 2 pieces together so you could trip people as they walked by. People with strings and stuff across to keep people from walking in front because they'd trip over the pipes.
Is that Owen? Is that Triple Hunt behind you? That's
what I'm talking about. Yeah. That was big.
That's a fun spot screenshot, right?
Yeah, it is a fun spot.
Yeah, because I played that last year and it doesn't work. That shoot the bear was so annoying, and it was still you could coin it up, and I'm like, this thing's not fucking working.
They tried to do a light gun, but the distance didn't work. So it has 2 pots in it, and you have to set them up when you first turn the game on, because they need to be calibrated, because they drift with temperature and time. So if they don't, so we it has a spot when you shoot. So even if you don't see where the gun is pointed, you can see where the shot is going to be. So you can cheat it and just move the spot around.
Pro tip.
When we were doing Innovative Leisure, Seamus and Ben bought a pair of those with the hopes of putting one together. And the pipes that connected to were bent. It looked like someone had bent them over some concrete or something. It was just torn apart.
All right. I think think I'm going to ask. There's been some questions flooding
Yeah,
through
I lost it. You guys
the chat.
kick me off of there if I don't type something.
So actually, this is a really good question from one of the YouTube chatters. They're wondering what you guys think of the arcade crash, and like if you think anything could have been done differently to prevent it, or.
I don't think so.
One of the things that we blamed it on, I think, at the time was the change from when people would bring their girlfriends there on dates after a movie. You know, you'd go in and you'd see Q*bert, that's cool, let's do that. And, you know, there was all these fun, imaginative games that would come out. And then Street Fighter came out and it was overrun by, you know, the whole combat mentality and younger guys. And it made it kind of an unfriendly environment. I don't know if that's fair or not, but that certainly was common.
For one of the reasons.
Well, the arcades were initially where everybody went to just socialize. And later on, when there were other means to socialize, and there were more powerful PCs that would play more powerful games and over a network, that's something, you know, that you couldn't or probably just as easily do at home than rather than go to the arcade. That sort of spelled the doom for an arcade.
That was Nolan's theory too, that arcades were places to do things you couldn't do at home. And as consoles and PCs caught up, you could start doing them at home. He tried a number of different times to try to bring back the arcade style to do something you couldn't do at home. He still thinks that's a possibility.
Well, now you're playing those games on your cell phone.
Yeah.
This is the arcade. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the controllers.
This has more power.
Really. It's the controllers and the cabinets. I mean, Paperboy was a great example.
Yeah.
You can't do that at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, about like the games that are sought after. I think the ones that hold their value the most tend to be the ones that have very unique controls that you can't just play with a keyboard, mouse, or, you know, a standard simple joystick.
Right. Jerry Lychek and his team at Atari were pretty clever guys. I remember like Skydiver. That cabinet showed up.
That's a fun game.
I was like, what? He's got this huge big rings on it. I was just blown away by what he created on that thing.
Yeah. Another thing about the controls too, I mean, Bob probably remembers this because he and I were doing the Indiana Jones for NES then. And just before that, when those things came out, we looked at those control pads and there's buttons all over them. And that was the NES, right?
Yeah.
You can't do more than 2 or 3 things on a panel. This is insane.
Yeah.
We were obviously wrong about it. Those of us who felt that were wrong about it. But that was, I think, too, you know, the controls, you know, the turret that was on Battlezone, you know, there are all these really neat controls. And that was the experience that you could not do at home. But it turned it on its head when the home had much more elaborate controls, keyboards for computers.
Peter, do you think though, when those controllers were originally done, they assumed that a game would use a couple of them?
Yeah, absolutely right.
They never really expected you to grab them and do all the keys at the same time, right?
Cording.
Well, when we first played Asteroids, I wasn't at Atari yet. I was down at Santa Monica Pier with a friend who, you know, we used to go out and ride motorcycles on Sundays and then go to the Santa Monica Pier and go into the arcade, see what was new. So they had Asteroids, and one of us ran the buttons, and one of us ran the thrust, and the other ran the shooting. You know, it's just clearly too much for one person.
Well, Nolan's first game, the nutting computer space.
Exactly.
And people were like, I get it. I got to use both hands, and they got to do something different.
Still one of the reasons why Defender or Stargate's tough games to play today, because people just can't handle the controls.
It's a pat your tummy, rub your head, or vice versa thing. That game is,
I had problems with Missile Command. I couldn't do the 3 buttons. I just couldn't deal with that.
That game ramps up so quick.
You should have gotten Dave for this somehow.
Yeah.
I sent him a message. He didn't seem to want to do it.
Yeah, he's kind of withdrawn, but
he doesn't really want to do stuff with the game area anymore. He's kind of, as I said, he's past it.
But the last thing he did was at GDC. I don't know. Did you go to that? A bunch of us did, where they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award.
I did not.
Cool.
I went to
Ed. Yeah, Dave Ralston doesn't want to do anything either with regard.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
I was
you know,
surprised
Ed,
at.
I went to Ed's award at ICE. That was or Dice rather. That was actually pretty cool.
I watched
There's
that.
other interesting things that people are probably not aware of regarding controls. For example, on Asteroids, the buttons stopped working after a while. And, you know, the way they worked is there were just two points coming together. And it turned out that they carbonized, and of course they would make contact. So Jerry Lightjack would come in and create basically a scissors. So when you created it, would sort of scissors it and make good contact. So we had to switch out the buttons on Asteroids.
And here I thought that was to make the game harder.
Right. Well,
less
Centipede
precise.
had another issue too, because the trackball got used so much, it actually formed a groove.
Yeah.
And when you'd spin the thing, it wouldn't actually spin the spinner. It wouldn't hit the bearing. You could pick a ball up over the bearing, so it wouldn't move. And so we had to get special bearings in there that wouldn't get wear away. But you get this bearing out with a big old divot out of it.
Yeah.
Where the
Well,
ball.
anybody who had an old mouse knew that, Ed.
But
I haven't seen a mouse do that, but I saw some Centipede trackballs with that, and it was just like,
you guys know about the football game, the Atari football that Ed did?
That was in my office.
There was a 4-player version of that.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
swear, Doug Snyder playing by himself was better than the best two people at Atari playing again. It was incredible.
There's
Ed,
one of those at Fun Spot.
do you remember the football roller?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was used in
It was a bowling ball track ball. The idea was that you would sit and rub your feet on it, you know.
I seem to recall people getting their fingers trapped.
I had blood blisters as a little boy. Like I didn't even understand football, but I played it once and you know, whatever. And I'm like, ugh, I'm not playing this. I didn't even understand what I was doing.
But if you didn't get that thing adjusted just right, so that the ball was right up in the tight cutout, if it fell down a little and left a big gap, your hand could go right in there.
Yeah.
And it'll take your fingertips
When they did,
off.
Peter,
Ow.
it was not meant to use your hands because you could put your hand down inside.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly.
It is not an easy trackball to adjust. I've tried so many times to adjust mine.
Oh, we actually have a question in chat regarding controls by Necros.
Oh, that's a good one from Brian.
Yeah, so he asks, was there any games that you guys worked on that you had controls in mind that are now, when the final game was completed, that the controls completely changed by the time it was finished?
Well, I will take a shot at that because, I'm going to turn it around a little bit. Usually we have a control in mind, but marketing says, no, use a joystick.
So much cheaper.
Well, that's what we have in Centipede. You know, we wanted to put I wanted to put a trackball on it. This miniaturized football trackball, something that everybody can use without getting worn out. And the marketing kept coming back, we want a joystick, put joystick code in there. They kept telling me no, it's not going to work.
Leave that to the console guys.
One of the best control changes, though, was Bruce Merritt's game, Black Widow.
Black Widow?
Yeah. With
What
the
was
whirly
it?
gig. And it originally was a whirly gig that you pressed to shoot.
Oh.
And then later it was...
You mean like on a Tron or like a
front line?
Tempest?
Yeah, like a Tempest.
Like a Tempest control.
Oh, okay.
Push the fire. I didn't know
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like front
Yeah.
line or like
And that
Forgotten
was
Worlds.
fun. That was the
Forgotten
best.
Worlds, yeah.
Oh,
there
okay.
you
You
go.
push and turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, whirly gig with a push down. Yeah.
Okay.
Went the other way. They wanted me to use a trackball because they had them, and I didn't. There was no up and down, so I thought it'd be confusing. That one I got them, convinced them to do a one line trackball.
Right. Yeah.
That went the other way, and they actually, Lightcheck went for it. He said, "Oh, that's trivial." Although it was originally a blue roller, but then the light didn't show through it. So I think I have the only one with blue roller here.
Yeah.
I've sold it.
And of course, Marvel Madness 2 had a trackball to begin with and
Yeah.
ended up with the joystick, but that was my own damn fault.
Gotta pick your battles, right?
It was your fault.
Nah, I screwed the pooch on that one.
I mean, could you have really fought that battle and won, though? I mean, when you're dealing with corporate, I mean...
No, I mean, I did it. It wasn't corporate. That's the opposite of what happened with, Ed fought for the right controller, and I fought for the wrong controller.
Oh.
Robert, did you originally want to use the warp speed controller on Battlezone? Because I know it was really expensive.
No. The Warp Speed controller.
I know where it went. But I was wondering if you wanted to use
No,
it.
that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It came from Army Battlezone.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it was not there.
so
at
Battlezone was long gone by then.
The Bradley trainer.
What did
Bradley
Oh, the
trainer.
Bradley trainer.
What did Warp Speed have? I thought it had a similar controller.
It did. It had the Bradley trainer controls, but the Bradley trainer came after Battlezone.
Right.
And that controller, to be honest with you, is modeled. Well, the Bradley trainer's version is modeled after the exact controller in the gunner station in a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. And what they did for Warp Speed and kind of sort of for Road Blasters is they just modified it, removed some of the buttons. They removed the palm switches. That had like
That's right.
thumb switches, finger
That's right.
switches,
That's
palm
right.
switches.
It had wire guided missiles on the
Yeah, wire guided
Battlezone.
tow missiles.
Did you get to go to FMC with us, Peter? Were you there for that?
No. That must have been a
I
fun
noticed
trip.
that they ran it out in the back area. We got to see all this stuff, and then it turned out we weren't supposed to see any of it because it was all
Yeah.
secret.
I
And we were
Yeah.
like,
I actually got to sit in the gunner's seat.
you
Yeah.
did. I remember that.
Yeah, because those were made in San Jose.
Yeah.
But the best one was when Ed and I went out to Fort Ord to fly in the Black Hawk simulators when we were working
Wow.
on Steel
Nice.
Talons. That was pretty cool. That was an Evans and Sutherland 6-degree freedom of motion Black Hawk helicopter simulator. That was awesome.
Crazy.
You know what that came out of that, don't you? The FBI came into the director of that facility because they thought that we'd use the proprietary elevator in the Black Hawk.
Oh.
Talons. It was like, come on, I got 40 polygons for a helicopter. I'm not. The guy basically said, no, it's my facility and I can do what I damn well please. And kicked him out. That
Was
the
was the controller on the Bradley trainer the basis for the Star Wars controller?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's what I thought. Yeah.
I just wondered if you had wanted it for Battlezone, but you didn't, right?
It wasn't. We didn't have
Because
it.
of the
then.
dates.
It wasn't available.
Okay, wait a minute. So
After Battlezone.
I'm confusing something because I thought you did the 2-player space game before Battlezone.
No. Battlezone was the first time with the 3D hardware. Period.
Okay.
With the math box. First game with the math box. It was supposed to be Red Baron, but Rich Moore fell behind on his schedule. Why is that?
And I didn't want it because I think you gave me the nickname No Math, right?
Yeah.
I had the nickname No Math. I didn't put math in my game.
He wasn't big on actually using math.
Yeah. Now that's
You guys
actually
all have, nicknames at Atari.
Yeah.
That was mine.
There were
Something they
some.
want to admit to.
Lee was
Rofo
Goose.
for Rob Rowe. We can admit this.
Rofo, yeah.
I think I was also the Black Thumb because no one wanted me to touch their game because I'd play it and break it.
Absolutely true.
It was like, oh, why this is not supposed to do this, is it? That came from maybe I told that story. That came from the day they were going to ship the first Atari pinball, and it was their lab was right across from where I was, and I said, well, can I play it? And they said, sure. So I started playing, and I ran back to my office. And I came back with I didn't know it was going out that day, with a pad of paper, and I was taking notes and played it for about 30 minutes. And one guy said, what's the notes? I said, bugs. And he says, oh, bullshit. I said, if you put more than 10 coins in there, you can play forever. And he said, no, you really can't. Because it would go 1 5 1 4 1 3 1 2 1 0 1 5 1 4 1 3. Because they would go 1 0 minus 1 was F and decimal adjusted back to 15. No one had ever looked at that. It's a huge list of bugs.
Code
they're
errors.
they're like, thanks, we were going to put that out today.
Oh.
Anymore. Was that Robin Ziegler?
No, I'm trying
No.
to remember who was in that team.
Yeah.
Well, Hugh was in charge of the pinball group.
Wait, you talking about Atari video pinball or the actual pinball?
No, the actual
No.
first pinball.
Actual
Pinball.
mechanical pins. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Calfee's language, pinball, PINBOL. Was this language that he wanted for pinball. That had all sorts of problems, that thing. Like the processors weren't fast enough to read the magnetic switches, and that had all sorts of weird problems.
We have another pretty good question in chat. This is YouTube chat. This comes from Brian Frober, but not Necros. His question, actually, I liked his question. It's pretty good. Was there any game that you guys worked on that when the whoever, I guess marketing, whoever does the cabinet design or the artwork or whatever for the side cabinet, did you guys absolutely hated it? Or you're like, oh, this doesn't fit the game at all, or oh, this is just terrible. What is this? Did that ever happen, or did you guys always love it?
Millipede. Did you not like Millipede, Ed?
Freaking Millipede. That's horrible.
I gotta say that the
I didn't have a problem with, but the control panel on Asteroids I thought really sucked.
You didn't like the red, blue, white squares?
Well, no,
I had a serious. A lot of people disagree with me, but Battlezone was my second project at Atari, and so I was not the project lead on that. That was Morgan Hoff.
I'm sorry.
Morgan Hoff wanted the periscope.
That periscope, you hated
Yeah.
it.
I hated the periscope thing. That kept people from watching the game. If you put a periscope there, how are you going to draw people?
They need a spectator monitor.
Right.
Yeah, well, this was when things were supposed to be cheap, and monitors were not. And I said, just put a faceplate on it. Let people watch.
Yeah, the comment.
So I hated that. That's one for me.
The compromise was the little holes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. There were holes
Yeah,
in
they
the
did
side.
put holes in the side.
Only not in the original release though. That came
No, I know that.
Oh, the original release didn't have the side holes? I didn't know that.
No. And the only reason those side holes are there was because I kept bitching.
There was a question, and there was a question about that. It never fails. There's always a question about like what's up
the
with
different
the
side holes. I think they're talking about on the bezel.
No, that's a different hole.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that hole.
We're talking about
There's a
the
joke in
mounting
there
holes.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Someone like
that's
drilled
right.
holes.
Oh,
There was around 500 or so cabinets that the sides had holes drilled in them towards the top, and everyone in the collector forums, not everyone, just a group of people ask about them. Like, what is this purpose of this? Was it to mount like a secondary monitor on top, or was it at the factory to
No, I
pick
have a
them up
best
and move
guess
them?
on that. They were doing all this factory automation about that time, and I think that was to have a machine pick them up and move it.
Okay,
interesting.
yeah, that would
Really
be
do, because they changed the way they did that. But it was actually kind of fun to go over and watch the factory because it. So you guys know when you turn on Major Havoc, it has that big explosion sound at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I used to go over and watch in the factory, and they'd line up like 100 games on one switch, and they would power it on.
Oh wow!
And that was me being
Oh, Star Wars.
They turned that thing on and it exploded. It was like people were jumping in their house. It was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think Star Wars does that too, right? It explodes too, right?
I have a comment regarding that question because when we did Gauntlet, I actually fought to have no plexiglass between the monitor and the players.
That was a very unusual request, Ed.
And well, no, I went to the IT department and basically said no plexiglass, which means the bezel has to be metal because they can't get in there. And marketing always fought it. So no, you got to have plexiglass because monitors, all the operators are expecting it there. And we had to prove to the operators you could drop a ball bearing on it, it wouldn't break the monitor, and they were so worried about breaking the monitor. So there were a lot of things I fought for.
Glass on the front of a colored.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. A television set, the old school CRT television sets, they didn't have a secondary piece of glass in front of it. Or
You ever
It was like literally in everyone's home.
Yeah.
But then again, you're not playing a game and dropping an ice cream cone on it either.
And I can't remember what you said
Or
this
beer.
before, but why did you not want the plexiglass in the Gauntlet?
Because
Or
the reflections off the.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
you get blind spots for one or more of the players.
It also gets
Because you have four people around it. It's not they're looking straight
Right,
on.
and it's
different
at
angles.
a pretty good angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Good
so,
point.
I had the monitor somewhat flattened. So, and that would cause more reflections, but I wanted it flattened enough so people could see what was going on.
Right.
So everybody around the
Like a
cabinet. could
map
see.
almost. Yeah.
There's still arguments to this day on Facebook. About 3 days ago, I answered that question that no, there's not supposed to be plexi on a gauntlet.
I got a gauntlet. It's missing the plexiglass.
Everybody thinks it's missing the plexiglass.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so it didn't. You won, and it did not have that.
Correct.
It did
Yeah,
not
I
have
did
that.
not have it.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it had a molded plastic, didn't it, for the
Yeah,
bezel?
that fit up
Yeah,
like
metal
tight
bezel.
against the glass.
Yeah.
were really something really tough.
Yeah, it was like really
Yes,
thick plastic, I think.
So you couldn't fit a hand down there.
Yeah, you couldn't go through it.
Right.
But your beer would spill in there, right? I'm sure.
I
Probably.
don't understand why they didn't put the Centipede button in the middle of that graphic and it's on top.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, that's a weird one. The artwork on the control panel doesn't quite match up the layout of the controls.
Yeah.
But I believe, just an opinion here, is that it probably originally had it lined up, but then maybe it played weird because the button was too low or something. You guys know about that on Centipede?
Here, I'll share.
Oh,
Share a picture, yeah. Present it if you can.
To show me that one.
the IRC.
Present it instead of, I put it in chat, but just present it.
I'll share it. Yeah.
Could have been repurposing controls too.
So see how it has the red area there.
The button should go right here inside this little
Yeah.
flower thing, but it's not. It's up above.
I never even noticed that.
I've never seen that.
No, I mean,
Never pay attention.
They're all
to
like that though.
Because the trackball's in the middle of it.
Yeah, it totally looks like the button where it should be right there. I wonder why they decided to move it.
I'm sure it's ergonomics because, like, if your hand were down there where the button is, it would be really way too close to the edge.
Did you think about ergonomics back then?
Well, that looks to me like it's just art trying to balance out the weight of the trackball visually.
Yeah.
And you know, they kind of let the button blend into the background.
Yeah, but then that button's like art-wise is like really
Yeah, it
off in a
doesn't-
weird spot,
it
right?
was
And
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it's on line art.
It's absolutely centered horizontally. On
Yeah, it'd be
that,
really
on that
interesting
thing,
to
too.
know the background of that.
Yeah.
Someone
That
got
is
fired
interesting.
over that.
Someone got
That's
fired
weird.
over that.
I'll go
Nobody
next
noticed it
website.
until we started collecting these things and having
Right.
to put
We
together.
talked about it on the show like I
No one
think
cared
5
then.
years ago. I think we
We're
brought that
ripping
up,
off
talking
old
about
ones
that.
and putting new ones on there and going, why is this not lining up?
Yeah, it's all the guys in the.
It's not
the main-
perfect.
I want to go to the flip side of that question, though. Bob Flamini, who I thought was probably one of the best artists I've ever seen for this kind of stuff, his graphics that he did for Skydiver just are fantastic. He did that. I just love that game just to watch from the outside. He did some
It's
great art.
beautiful.
Bob
Love
was,
Skydiver.
Bob was incredible. Yeah.
And he was the one who came up with
Yeah.
that. I've told that story that I did Cannonball. The guy splat in the wall, and management said absolutely not. They didn't like that bone crunching splat, which we did by throwing wet paper towels on the floor, scoring the waveform. And when I did Skydiver, it was going to be over water, so it would splash. And I don't remember who it was that said it. They go, "Whatever happened to that sound you did for Cannonball?" And Flamani's the one who came up with the idea of the guy with his head stuck in the ground with his feet sticking in the air, kicking. That was his idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal artist.
Was he still around when I was there? Is he the one that did the artwork for Marvel?
I don't know.
The name
I know
is
he
really
came-
familiar.
When did he join Sente? Ed?
Oh, that's right.
Because he went Sente with you guys, right?
Oh boy, he joined fairly early on. I mean, it was a big coup to get Bob. away
Yeah,
from-
I know. He did
Yeah,
all the
I'm a big
graphic
fan
work
of
for
his
that.
art too.
Oh, they
there you
put the
go.
button in the right
Talked about it a
spot.
bunch of times.
On the mini.
What's that?
Almost.
They put
Oh, the mini, the repro.
almost on there. Not,
Well, that
just
might
seemed a
actually-
little explosion.
that might-
Is that the new wave toy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that might provoke the Yo Eddie in the chat asked a while ago. Ask them what they think of the arcade one-ups.
I love them. I did not buy the 1942-43 ones though.
Oh, the new wave thing.
Yeah.
No, the arcade one-ups.
No, like the quarter.
You know, the
size
car, those
or-
little
yeah,
cheap,
half size.
like
The
half
this is
size,
the one-ups.
Walmart
This is
specials.
Oh,
With the riser
So-
that's still small.
like cardboard.
I hate the ones that they've all put major havoc in them because you can't play them with a button and a joystick.
I know.
Yep.
And the controls are
The
awful.
controls are awful.
Yeah.
And then the one they did on the phone, the one they did on the iPhone, you know, they put that little tiny window in there, and then they had the controls at the bottom, and you could not see the graphics and what was playing. You couldn't play the controls because your thumbs wouldn't stay in the right place.
You need tactile, real controls. for
It's
that.
bizarre to me because
Fun.
you think about it, like, well, if these people if they're willing to spend that, you know, a couple $200, $300 on something like that, like it's not a whole lot more before you can kind of get the legit thing, or at least eke your way into the hobby.
Well, this was the answer to the games. Have you guys seen those? I don't know if you can see that. So this goes.
Looks like an IUD oversize.
It's sucked
I'm sorry.
up to the phone.
Your background, Owen, is ruining the background.
Yeah, turn off your background.
You gotta turn it off.
Oh, it's like a little thumbstick, right, for your.
Yeah, it's like a
touchscreen.
thumbstick.
Yeah.
Where is
Go
it?
back to the beach.
It's the bottom left corner.
Because that was your real background.
I used to have a metal
Oh, you
joystick that you could do that with too.
I don't see it off on here.
None. Scroll to the
It's a
top
bottom.
and select none.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
There you
All
go.
right. So,
There we go.
so it's a little.
Oh.
So you can hold on to it like that and play, and your finger stays where it belongs.
Are you
And this
saying it's
company
a
made
thumb thing?
That's what she said.
Something. They make a little one and a large one. It's like.
Got it. Okay.
It's
She
Owen's
said
show
also.
and tell.
Owen tell.
Here, you can stick it on the.
Owen tell.
Owen
Nice.
tell. That's a new
You did there.
podcast.
Points for cool stuff behind you. You got.
I was a hard.
Oh yeah, Owen's got a lot
Oscilloscope
of
and
really
stuff.
cool stuff in his office.
Oh yeah, actually.
Apple stuff.
There's a Mac. There's a Mac,
So-
old Mac up there, and it still works.
I shared a couple photos with Blob Fumate, and speaking of the Centipede Mock just held up. He's like holding a small model of a Star Wars upright that looks almost identical size.
Ed?
Yeah.
Bob Fumate in a
Oh,
picture I put it in our
Okay,
chat, and
yeah.
it's also in the IRC chat.
Yeah, they used to build the mock-ups, the early cabinets, small like that.
Oh, that's right.
There he is.
That's right.
He's
Oh,
on the
that's
right.
on the right.
Bob is on the right. Yeah.
Oh.
He
Oh,
was
cool.
his artwork was fantastic.
I know I told the story before, but I kind of know his niece, who I begged her to try to get me in touch with him, but I guess he's been in pretty bad health for a few years, so it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, sadly. I really loved his work though. His work was fantastic.
But she even said like there'd be like Christmas parties and he'd break out like a binder with like artwork he did, just like a show and tell.
Yeah.
And most of the kids, they're like the third generation. They don't care. They're like, oh, neat. And then they go play whatever. I'm like, no, you gotta pick up on that. That's like amazing art,
The artwork on
that's really cool.
the artwork
there
on
you
the
go.
walls is awesome.
Oh
he
yeah.
did a lot of the pinball back glasses.
And he did Atari console cartridge box art too, which is like,
Oh, that stuff was so
to me,
amazing.
that
I mean,
was
that's
like
what sold the
them.
games.
Exactly.
Oh
Yeah.
And that's what gave us the imagination, because we're just looking at little boxes and
You
blips.
couldn't watch a
on the
YouTube
screen.
video on the gameplay. You went by the box art.
You went
You're
by
like,
the
this
box
looks
art.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what gave
Which
you
is
the
what
imagination
killed, which
for
is
it.
what killed the 2600 eventually.
Yeah.
Really good boxes and
Too good art.
Yes.
And
This is
nothing per
crap.
game.
We were using our imagination back then.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot.
I have a
Yeah.
question about the song on Centipede. I guess this goes to Ed, or so I don't know who it goes to, but what did you guys think of like the marketing materials for Centipede, where they came out with that poster with the naked girl on it? That's the Centipede girl.
Yeah, I have
I
that in my
loved it.
downstairs room.
So that was the receptionist at Atari, right?
Wow.
How'd that come about? What's the story behind it?
A lot of that, let me tell you, first of all, I was project leader on that. And I had enough wherewithal at this point. I had some say as to what could and couldn't happen. I was never shown that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it for a long time, but apparently somebody in management told, I think it was George Opperman who did it, and told him, no, this is a family company. We're not doing that. But I do have copies of that poster, and I know what you're talking about.
Hey, I'm waiting for you to tell us that's Rothberg's ex-girlfriend.
I'm going there yet.
If you know what I mean.
It's a little early for all that, right?
So it still got made and I guess hung in certain
Distributed.
arcades, or I don't know where was that made? Who was it made for? That's my question.
Teenagers.
Well, it may be made to ship to operators.
That one?
Oh, so it was for operators.
Oh,
No,
not that
no,
one.
that's not it.
I never saw it.
She's ready
It's
to
a
play
painted.
tennis.
It's a
She's
nude
painted.
painted girl. That's
Oh,
I had never
that
seen
one.
that one either.
She's all green.
She's all green. Yes.
Oh, she's painted green. Yeah,
There you go.
No, I'm absolutely serious. I have that framed downstairs.
Wow.
I'm surprised it's not in Danny's room.
I love
like,
the disco
I-
lights.
That's like an art class photo where you're
It
like,
is.
interpret this. What do you see here?
I I can hear the song Xanadu in my head right now.
I think she's naked. I'm not sure. Could be a
The intention is there.
Yeah, no, she's definitely naked. I actually have the poster as well hanging. It's
I was just wondering why it came about and who it was for and where people.
It was for teenage
Posters are
boys.
often used for send to the operators to promote your games.
I was going to say, it's a distributor.
Yeah,
Like
distributors and
1980,
operators.
81.
Yeah,
Ed, what was the year of
bet
that? Log.
I'll bet that was very appealing to the distributors.
It was 80, Owen.
80, because that was the graphics of the time, right?
Well,
Look at the back glasses of pinballs.
So that would have been
back glass of pinball.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't there till 81. I'm not sure I got it the first year I was there. It may have come out a little later for some other reason. I don't know. But remember too who we were selling to, what the operators and distributors businesses were all about.
Yep.
No.
Music and amusement.
Money laundering.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So yeah,
Maybe.
you went right there. All right.
Great money laundering. Is that why they started putting in like counters in and having people come in and check machines? And is that too many people money laundering? Is that one of the reasons? Maybe.
Well, but you could still just rack up.
Just to check collections to make sure that the guy who comes and takes all the coins out is actually giving you all the money.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Because he's supposed to take the meter reading and then hand you a bag full of quarters. And if the quarters don't match the meter reading, then
something's fishy. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons to this day it's taken me 5 years to get a business license.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm hourly or daily entrance only.
Oh.
At a retro arcade, yeah. Because we had laws here still stating that you had to do by coin and stop people from skimming off the top.
And that's Orange Whip's arcade that's behind him in the picture.
The whole same thing goes to Sente's original idea of the big cabinet, that big heavy original cabinet, right? So the idea was that you wouldn't have to move game to game. You could just move a cartridge and some graphics.
Yeah.
The same people who couldn't count the coins were the same people who were moving the games. And it was much easier to get a guy to go muscle a game somewhere than it was to teach him how to take out a cartridge and
change it.
Right.
It was a great idea, but just the people who they didn't think about the people who actually did the work.
Hey, hand truck is easier than a
hand truck pickup. Yeah, boom.
And you'd think that Nolan of all people would be the guy sensitive to that, considering where he came up from.
Really.
I got the idea, but it was the wrong audience, right? It's like.
What other questions you got?
We do have another one. It's another Ryan Frover question, but he's coming up with some good ones. Was there any games that started out as a vector game and turned into a raster game, or vice versa?
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Yes, there was. The original game for Asteroids was proposed to me by Lyle Raines as a raster screen, and since I'd played Space War at the AI Lab, which is basically on a vector monitor, and I just finished doing graphics for Lunar Lander on a vector monitor, I knew that the resolution was 1024 by 768 on the raster and 320 by 240 XY, and a 320 by 240 on a raster.
Yeah,
you have it on XY. So I went from raster to XY for that game.
I didn't realize the resolution was so high on the Wow.
Sure.
So that was like I guess an added challenge for Atari 2600 version of Asteroids, trying to figure out how to, okay, boys, how are we going to do this as a raster game? Because we're not doing a vector game here. So
there was discussion that Major Havoc should have been a raster game.
If you took on a color monitor, for example, and did a ship and rotated it, you wouldn't be able to tell where in the hell it's pointing.
It's all
yeah.
I just remember seeing the Asteroids in the arcades, and you could not escape it because it was so vibrant. You see that little trail from the shot, and it could be like across the entire room, and it's like all your peripheral vision. You see the contrast in that trail. If anything, that was the attract mode. That's what sold it.
Well, especially if you had the deluxe golden edition Turtleroid.
There you go.
We'd have to give it the whole story.
Louis,
We talked about it on the show last time.
Yeah.
Did you do anything about the CDs I sent you, Louis?
Yeah, we watched them.
We've seen a private video. Yes.
And we talked about it. We didn't show it on the show, of course. But we did
I'm
talk.
not surprised.
Yeah, but we did talk about it.
Or something. Yeah.
Okay, so as the one-time keeper of the keys of that, I think as long as you don't do the one commercial with the naked girl in it, you probably could show it.
We actually showed that in Pebble Beach to the management and family and of Atari management as well as Time Warner, and I actually got the best congratulations, whatever you were. They're watching it, and I have a scene in it where I walk in, and I get to hear this from the audience. That's Ed Logg.
The bordello, right? That's
in the bordello with the
at the spaghetti
pack up by t-shirt.
A big pack of cigarettes rolled up in
Vaseline. And
I'm so not Ed Logg.
You have to understand the reason we made that is because they were making all these videos and commercials and stuff about the consumer side, but nothing about the coin-op side. And we said, hell with it, we're going to make our own.
So you go to the managers meeting and the consumer group would take up most of the managers meeting with their videos that they were going to, the commercials they were going to do.
That's right.
And so we, needed equal time.
Well, we found it fascinating.
One camera and two VCRs for editing.
Oh,
back in those days. Yeah.
We're such nerds that we were noticing differences in what the final release was like compared to what you're showing, because like Carrie was pointing out some differences in like Black Widow and gameplay differences about how things were changed.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was really neat to see the differences between what was being developed compared to what finally came out, and we really dug all that stuff. That was really a treat to check out.
Speaking of prototypes, we've been getting questions about that in chat. This must be a good question to ask. Someone, Andy asked to ask you guys. Are there any prototypes or ideas that never made it to market, but you would like to see finished perhaps one day?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
There was the Owen Rubin Memorial Game Room, also coined by Rothberg. I had more games going into that room.
I mean, I have certainly games that I did that I killed that were not fun, but I can't say any of them that I wish would ever made it to production.
My very last game for Sente, which we left at a golf land when Sente shut down, and whoever got it actually got the ROMs into MAME, I noticed, called Grudge Match. I wish I could have finished that.
It turned into a movie with Al Pacino and Sylvester Stallone, I believe.
Are we talking strictly arcade games here?
Let's open it up to anything.
Not at all.
No. The last game I did, period, was for Innovative Leisure. Killed me that thing never made it to market.
Your game at 3DO was really good too that never got out, right?
Oh yeah, well the M2, right?
That was a great product.
That was a very, very cool thing. At the time, there was, it was a racing game. There was what was this, 90, probably 96 or 7. Yeah. There was no pop-up of the geometry in the background. Everything was loaded in the memory or loaded in time in memory, real-time casting of shadows. It was a pretty cool game. Real physics, same guys who did the physics for Hard Driving. Did the physics for this game for the M2. It was the M2 launch title.
I was sorry that didn't make it because I remember you taking me up there to see that. It was like, okay, I'm ready to buy this.
Explain what M2 is. What was
M2 was the successor to the 3DO, the original 3DO.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It was the next generation 3DO. It was supposed to be manufactured by Matsushita, which is Panasonic. And there was going to be a Panasonic M2. I don't know all the reasons why, but it never went to market. And that's when I left 3DO. kind of a, you put your heart into a project for it, and it's like, it's just a beautiful thing. There's some videos on YouTube you can find of the gameplay of but it probably looks terrible by today's standards.
Right, that's the issue.
But by 97,
in those days, that was
it was
really
pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And it did another thing that I'm sure has been done since, but there were like 5 different music tracks that were the same, but with more orchestration, more energy. The tempo stayed the same, but like the drumming would go to double time, and the riffs in the background would increase in pace. And I'm about to get my boy. Come here. You can come up and say hi.
I was wondering where your dog was. He usually was behind you.
There's my dog.
Oh yeah.
There's Bo.
Can somebody post the M2 link I posted?
That dog really hates you.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved that Marvel 2 ship, but
You're a good boy. Yeah, you are.
it was pretty much done though.
I have it in the IRC chat if somebody can.
The video?
Yeah, the video from YouTube on M2.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I would love to play Marble 2 with the trackballs.
Marble Madness 2.
Yeah, shows up as a white screen for me.
I think speaking for collectors out there, that is one of the biggest ones. Like, everybody would love to have that.
Are we showing Marble Madness 2? I've never seen a clip of it ever.
Oh, they have it at CAX.
This is the M2.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is not Marble Madness 2, Dave.
Oh
No, this is the M2. Oh, cool.
Oh, well. Oh, this is the
Yeah, we were doing
Remember the time we're talking about.
Specular Reflections back in. No, this isn't. No, this is not.
This is not it.
That's not my game.
No, this is a demo showing a lot of different things from M2.
A tech demo for the M2.
What was the name of the game, Ed?
Well, it was originally going to be IMSA Racing, and then the deal for the license fell through, so it became World Championship Racing.
Okay.
And we had we did like real tracks, actual tracks, including a New Orleans street circuit. So it was a pretty cool game.
That was around 97, 98, you said?
Only someone had done that.
No, 96, 97, I think. Because that's when the M2 cratered and it didn't go out, and that game didn't go out. That's what got me out of 3DO.
Hey, look at that.
Heartbreaking. There you go. That looks like, that looks like a bug. Yeah, this is it.
Sweet.
If only someone had rushed to do that, Ed. Sorry, bad pun.
Yeah, right.
Oh, nice.
So
sorry, a couple drinks in me. I'm a little slow.
You were in the remote camera going under that. This is Laguna Seca.
That looks like Laguna Seca. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, and watch the shadow will kill.
Yeah, that's totally Laguna
Seca.
Seca.
The car, it was pixel perfect. It was really nice. Little things like that.
Wait a minute. I've driven Laguna Seca. Where is that on Laguna Seca?
He just passed through the Dunlop loop.
Oh, I see where you are. Okay. Looks like
he's heading up the hill to the corkscrew.
I was a 3DO owner, and I read articles about the M2, and I couldn't wait for it to come out, so I was waiting for it.
So this was.
I remember playing that at Media Play.
Oh, replays too.
They had Mad Dog McGee.
They had stuff that you hadn't seen yet,
Yeah, that was way ahead of time for that.
You guys know the story? I can't find much except a John Vivian interview. Anything about the company called Axlon?
Yeah, Axlon was a Nolan company. It was going to be, wasn't that the robotics thing?
Yes.
They did a game called Frenzy, is the only popular thing I can think of.
What?
Frenzy, it's like a button game. It's kind of like
No, I heard you, but I used to hang out at Axlon. I got one of the prototypes around here from Axlon. That was mostly going to be robotics. The Petster came out of Axlon.
Okay.
So the thing behind me, where's I got to turn this off again? Sitting up on the shelf way back up there. Can I get to it? Can you see this guy right up there?
Yep.
Yeah, the robot up there.
Okay, so this was
that was the Atari Robot.
Atari Robot. Nolan loved it so much he wanted to do something like it, and that was one of their projects originally, was to do. Then it became Androbot. I think it's not Androbot. It became something bot. What was it called? But he did a dog and a cat that would run around your house and and they didn't go over very well.
The only thing I found online, it's you have to even view it through the web archive. What wouldn't even come up is posted in chat there. That's an interview with John Vivian.
Don't know that name.
But one of my friends owns one of these Frenzies games, and I've never seen one in my entire life that works. So I don't know how many were made or anything.
So here's
obscure titles like what was the one that Cube Quest?
Oh,
there you go. That thing.
Yeah, Cube Quest. I've seen that.
What the hell?
Frenzy when there's already a Stern Frenzy, right?
That's weird.
What is that, Simon?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's like
Simon Cubed. Yeah.
Like a bar type game, Simon. Yeah, it's because it's 2 players. There's 2 different colors.
It's Atari Touch squared.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's whack-a-mole with buttons, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Carrie would love that. Yeah. So here's a question relating to prototypes. Do any of you guys? Well, and this has partially been answered in the past, but do any of you guys have code or documentation or some sort of remnants of unreleased games in your closets or at your home somewhere?
I got a Polybius around here somewhere.
It's right under the bouncer, right?
I
The
don't know what
game
you're
called
I
Bouncer.
say Owen just disappeared off screen. I knew he was going to come back with a ream of fucking paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
Oh, I'm sure Ed Log has some of those as well.
When can you guys release that to the public?
Well, actually, I was a good citizen, Ed. When Atari Games shut down, I gave them all my listings and everything else. And to this day, I feel so sad. I should have just kept those listings.
See if I can hold up the name on the bottom of that one, though. Look whose name is on there.
Cerny. Yeah. I have the Marvel 2 source code.
Doesn't Scott have us? Doesn't Scott have that stuff? He scavenged
Scott
like
has-
crazy in those.
yeah,
Scott Evans, you're talking about?
Yeah.
He has the ROMs because he copied mine and the PALs.
I think he sold all that stuff now, though.
What a thief.
Now that I think about it,
Scott's got an
probably-
eBay channel. He's dumping that stuff like crazy.
Yes.
there's probably a misconception that everybody has about what programming was like back then in the early days. We didn't sit around terminals and enter code. We wrote it down on paper. There were computer operators that entered the code. And some of them sometimes entered their own comments in the code, which
They
was
couldn't
all
read ours. Because they couldn't read ours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were also wisecracks from Linda Goidel all the time.
Yeah, Linda's good.
Oh,
at it.
Linda Good.
So
That was
usually where the
before my time.
watchdog, you had to write to an address called the watchdog. That if you didn't write to it often enough, it would reset the game. So if something got stuck in a loop, and you would say things like "kick the dog" or "beat the dog," and they would rewrite some of them. Don't hurt the dog. You know?
So is it sort of a thing?
My first game at Atari, I didn't know there was those people to do that because I was in a different building. So I did my whole first game sitting at a teletype and saving it on paper tape and editing it.
Oh my god!
The whole thing was written by hand. And I remember when Tom Hogue, who I was working for, came in and said, "Can we see the listings?" I went, "What listings? I have some teletype output, you know." He says, "No, don't, you know, from the PDP-11s in the other room." What PDP-11s in the other room? I got written that whole game.
Oh man.
Pencil and paper on hand. So that was
Doing it the hard way.
It was done by hand.
Time for a happy hour.
Yeah.
Paperboy had all its data entry done for the playfields done by a secretary, but she did it on a terminal.
VT100.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember.
by the time
Please add CIDO 101s because it was the same company that did Marble Madness.
When was it we first started entering our code? It was the early 80s, but certainly by Gauntlet standards, we were entering our own stuff.
Yeah. When I think that was when the VAX arrived.
Yes.
We could start editing on the VAX. Yeah.
When God arrived.
Yeah.
That's right. Forgot that.
It was
Or the
called
Three
God.
Stooges.
Yeah.
I think Jed Margolin had complained about it, so it was changed to GAWD or something.
I did not know that.
Then there was, if I remember correctly, I had gone then, but I heard stories about Kim Novak's and
That's correct.
and what was the other one
Ernie-
called?
Ernie-
Kovacs.
Ernie Kovac. Yeah.
But I can't remember what the three were called.
The Stooges?
Yeah, it wasn't Manny Moe and Jack. It wasn't. No, that's Pet Boys.
No.
Pet Boys, yeah.
No, I think it was Larry.
Hey Mo.
Oh, Larry and
Yeah.
Curly.
Calling Dr. Howard, Dr.
Yeah,
Fine,
Curly.
Dr. Howard.
Yeah.
Hey, modified.
Those were
So,
the Maniacs,
all right.
I think.
Well, Marvel Madness 2 was a sequel in the works. Were there any other ones like 720 or Paperboy or any of those other games? Like, were they popular enough to start the development, or
What
you
would
guys
the
recall
what
any of
would the
those?
sequel to 720 be? 1440?
There you go.
Doing those all day now.
Yep.
The guys that did that had left Atari by the time there would have been a 10-year anniversary or whatever. So
John Solwitz and
Solid
Dave
and
Ralston.
Ralston,
went over to EA to do stuff.
I thought there was a Paperboy too, wasn't there?
Home console, I think.
Okay, I guess that's
Yeah,
all it was.
Yeah,
NES
that
or
might have been a
something.
console game. Yeah.
That's where you got to do the other side of the street.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you ride back, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And I can't remember if I talked about this other thing before, but you guys also mentioned Scott Evans. I think he has the prototype that the 720 originally was developing a skateboard paddle on it or something like that on the base.
Yes.
Like you were going to kick a skateboard instead of hitting the button or something like that. You'd still use
Boy,
the
that'd be a
joystick, I
workout.
think. Yeah.
That solved the arcade body problem we have today.
Okay, now so there's a game that I never thought would be successful. With, what's it called? The one where you dance on the
Oh,
right.
Oh, DDR, yeah.
I thought that was like a total failure. Like what geek wants to?
Oh, on Sente they did that, right? Stomping.
Stomp it.
Oh, yeah.
Stomp it. They're going to be awful. It's like
John Kinstein game.
I don't remember that skateboard control, but the one I remember that was along those lines a little was Dennis Harper's game that turned out to be Tubin in the end.
Tubin.
It started out to be a kayaking game.
Yeah.
And it had a
That's
T handle
interesting.
coming out of there, and you do this with
Wow, that'd be a
That's
You know what, Peter? I
interesting.
left about that time, and I remember the kayak game, and I didn't know that Tubin came from.
It was work.
Yeah.
I
But
bet.
it was dying, and there was a brainstorming session on, okay, there's a lot of good code in this. What do we want to do with it? And I'm sure every one of us at that meeting remembers it differently because I've heard different stories of who suggested what since then. But yeah, Tubin came out of.
We talked about Tubin on our show, and we're like,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of like in the higher levels, there's some controversial things
yeah.
that wouldn't probably fly today with like
Definitely.
some of the stuff you see on the sides of the
Politically incorrect,
politically
or tripping
incorrect
out on
characters
acid,
and
no matter
things.
what it is. It had it all.
Yeah.
Well,
One
any
part I
game that
remember
Mike
from
Kelly was involved in, you probably have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Now, we used to go
I like to sum up Mike Halley in one memory I have. When we used to play softball, and he would stand out in center field with a beer and say, "If you hit it to me, I have to be able to catch it with one hand, and you better not spill my beer."
Yeah. You guys asked about nicknames. That's the only place we had nicknames that I recall on the Survivors.
Yes.
Those Survivors, yeah.
The Survivors, is that right?
DIB man.
Wait, I think I remember in the Atari Business's Fun book, there's actually a picture of the softball team.
Yeah, we got
really?
in trouble
Maybe.
over our
Yeah.
logo for that.
I don't
Remember
find
the Survivors?
Was that the name of
Yes.
that was the name of the softball team? Is that
There
right?
was a layoff right around the time they opened up Twin Creeks. Pretty big layoff, and so we named ourselves. Yeah, and so
was
the
me.
people who were left called ourselves the Survivors. And I think it was George Opperman made the logo, which was the Atari. I have it in my trunk of my
With
car,
the bat.
actually in a bag.
With
But
the
it was
baseball bat
the
being
vertical
the
baseball bat with the Atari
Yeah.
Fuji around it, and Legal
I do remember
hated that, if I recall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I only played on that team like a few games. Softball
Yeah,
wasn't
so
much good.
Owen,
Tinkerbell's a little easy.
you know this the same person. He's helping the beta test the extra levels. Dave Jury.
Yeah.
So he's like amazing at tubing also.
The problem with David, and I had to have a little talk with him, is like he's Mark Cerny, right? He can play these levels. He showed me one of these levels he did, and I watched him go through it and said, I don't think I could repeat that if you drew it on a whiteboard for me.
Right.
It's
Oh,
like,
there it is.
you know,
34K's.
Oh,
got the
Can we make
Atari
that bigger?
crew there.
he's an
Harper.
amazing player.
Have to present me.
Harper's another guy you should have gotten for this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does it say
Wait,
that
who's holding that up? You got to say something so it gets bigger.
Yeah. So Jim, can you present me real quick?
Oh, he
Oh,
left.
he's not
Oh
here.
wow.
Oh, Jim left, of course.
Be orange
That was
Is he here? Can you
before. That
present
was
him?
before my time.
We gotta make it bigger so we can see.
Oh,
So let's wait till Jim comes back so he can.
Yeah,
That's not.
Yeah, wait till-
Peter, that's not.
That's not the Survivor's jersey.
No,
No,
it doesn't.
it's
Dave
not.
Clare was in
Yeah,
that.
camo.
Actually, it says Atari Consumer, so it's probably the wrong group anyway.
Yeah, it's the wrong group.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
But I was flipping through this book, but when you guys were coming on for this, and I was looking through some of the pictures, and I was like, I wonder if I can find any of these guys in these pictures to
I'm sure you can.
show.
What was
No,
funny
it's
on-
ton.
on,
I don't know if you guys know this book,
there
but
we
yeah,
go.
it's
No.
it's
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
it.
now you're presented 34.
yeah, of course. And I just shut it.
The two of them in my living room for about 7
I like the paper towel.
It's to help the green screen.
Which book
That's
is
a
that?
giant paper towel.
Big Afghan.
Which book is that? I didn't catch it. You were-
It's Atari Business is Fun.
Ah, okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
now you got the-
like I said, it
That
says
looks like Toyer in the background there.
Yeah,
consumer.
it does.
No.
It does.
But the rest
I don't
of
know if it is, but-
familiar.
Trying to recognize anybody.
I don't recognize.
Yeah, that's not coin op.
I don't think that's coin up.
No,
No,
it's
it
Yeah.
says
It's
consumer
the
on their
consumer.
shirts.
Yeah,
I
it says
know,
consumer on the shirts. So
yeah, but I hung around with a lot of the consumer guys.
Right.
So.
Well, they were
Yeah.
upstairs for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of long hair and a lot of mustaches. There.
Yes.
so that's the book.
The mustache is on point.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's proper big. It's a solid read.
I read that 4 times because I did a lot of proofing for that.
Oh wow.
So it's sort of true.
Oh, he would send me these chapters and go, "What did I get wrong in here?" You know, Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt Vendel.
Yeah.
He's no longer with us, I
Hey,
think.
you
Did-
rest.
yeah, he passed. Yeah,
Oh.
That was really sad. I really liked Kurt. He was a
yeah,
great-
that was really.
yeah. They spent a whole day here going through stuff and going over stuff, and we fed them. And honest God, it must have been from like
You
9.
still want to play?
All right, I got a question from
Who are you kidding, Ed?
I got a question from Yo Eddie in the chat. He says, "I'll try again. How many Battlezone cocktails were made?
Ooh.
Do any of you know of those?
2.
And then was a Battlezone cockpit ever going to be released back in the day?"
No, no
Oh, wow.
Battlezone cockpit. There were a couple Battlezone cocktail tables made,
They were
but I think it was they tested it and it didn't test well. I don't know that they ever produced them.
They went
So-
to the little one, whatever that was called.
The cabaret.
The cabaret.
The
Yeah.
cabaret,
Yeah, the
the
cabaret.
cabaret cabinet. That's what I had.
Oh, there's a cocktail right there.
Yes.
Battlezone
No.
cocktail.
That may be just a prototype though.
There was only a
Yeah.
couple of those.
It had to
Yeah.
flip the screen. So,
Yes.
I mean, clearly it was one player's turn, flip the screen, the other player's turn.
Yeah.
It just didn't go.
Yeah.
You know what's weird is because what is the Red Baron? Red Baron did a cockpit, but
Yes.
why didn't Battlezone? It seems like Battlezone would be just a perfect one for that to be in the same
The
cabinet
Baron was
almost.
supposed to come out before Battlezone, and it slipped.
It didn't.
Okay.
No, it didn't. No,
Oh,
no,
I didn't
no.
realize.
They got screen. Rich Moore got graphics up on the screen first, but the path he chose bogged him down later on, and he couldn't. He had to tear it
Wait a
down.
minute, so I was in your lab when you were doing Battlezone, and then I was.
Oh
in
yes, you were.
I was in his lab. I was in his lab when he was doing that because that's where Major Havoc was done. When he was doing that game, I remember that.
Yeah, he came.
Yeah,
that
when
came
is
out-
that? When is that volcano going to explode?
That was
These guys-
Jeff Boskel's thing.
Shut
right?
up, Owen.
So it was hilarious because when we had Ed on the show, like Owen was in the IRC
It kept
sending
asking.
questions.
Yes.
Ask Ed about the volcano. Ask Ed
Like,
about the
come
volcano.
on
I was
in.
only doing
What
that
are you-
because that was the joke, right?
Well, they
You
did tell you
understand,
that Jeff.
I caught Ed on probably one of his worst days. He must have been heavily into a problem and he just wasn't ready for me to come fuck with him.
No. Well, you remember when we were doing those days? First of all, that thing had a bunch of processors. So there was the vector generator, which was a whole different thing to debug from the 6502, which was a whole different thing to debug from the math box. But when you were debugging on the 6502, if you had a really nasty problem, you had the analyzer that you hooked on. We didn't have any, like now you have, you can trace your code, and, it was primitive back then.
The analyzer had 256 steps, and you could either be the beginning, the end, or in the middle.
If you could get the analyzer.
If you could get it, yes, that's right. There was like 4 of them, and they got
enough of them.
Yeah, but the nice thing about them is they caught every one of the wires coming out of that processor, so you could see all kinds of stuff. Kids these days don't have.
We did the blue box thing. We put an analyzer in there based on that.
What was the company policy on finished games? Like, if you guys wanted to take home an arcade cabinet, did they have like, oh, you can have one, but it costs you 50% off, or did they just give it to you because you created it, or what was the policy on that?
It was different for every game.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
I think you're kind of buying scavenged stuff, right?
That we used for field tests, they would sell it to the team for $50.
Yeah.
We go to the donut fund.
That's right.
I don't think I ever
major
heard
havoc I have. I thought
donuts.
someone buying a production cabinet.
I have a vague memory of donuts along with that foot trackball.
Yeah, no, it was a real bowling ball. We played around the donut. We'd play it around the donut table later in the day.
Yeah, it was in my office for a long time, Peter, and I got tired of tripping over it.
No, but we'd had it out in the common area where there was a circling of couches around a little coffee table where they'd put the donuts. And so late in the morning when the donuts were stale, you throw a few out there, like a miniature golf course, and you'd have to roll the
bowling ball.
The bowling ball and get it to stop in the middle of a donut to get a point.
We were always developing games.
Yeah, everything.
Squash and donuts.
Whether it was a video game or a yard game
nonstop. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are big baseball fans, but a group of us go to spring training, and we learned one year about this game called Mound Ball, which back in the old days, after, if it was a strikeout or throw to first or whatever, the player that wound up with the ball in the third strike would roll the baseball back to the mound. Now they just toss it in the stands from anywhere. The umpire always just throws a new ball out. But people would wager on whether the ball would stay on the mound or not on the mound. and a bunch of us go to spring training every year, and we came up with way many more rules to this.
Oh yeah, full rule book.
We called it modified mound ball, and you're basically betting on every at bat. It's game designers don't leave well enough alone.
To answer your question, I think of only one other case where we actually bought production cabinets, and that was Tempest near the end. They had 300 or 275 Tempest cabarets, and they were going to trash them because they couldn't sell them. Yes. At that point, the coin op said, "Hey, for $100, we'll buy them."
You hear that, Andy, in the chat?
You have to understand something about that, Ed. For them to do that, it became an employee benefit, so they were taxed on it.
Well, that may have been, but
didn't happen when they did. What was the Wolfpack? The one with the big. There was a bunch of these little small monitors, and we in engineering wanted to buy them all, and they had to take them out to a dump and crush them. Otherwise, they considered it. Otherwise, it was a. They did that with little color monitors too.
Right, because they could report that as a loss.
It's a loss.
Chuck E. Cheese.
That was ET, right?
Right.
ET was the same reason.
ET cartridges.
The IRS actually. There's rumors that the IRS actually went to see them dump them, so they could write them off.
Jeez.
If you give it or sell it to an employee, it becomes an employee benefit, and you're not only taxed on the income, you don't get to take the loss. I like that Wolfpack game. Talk about a big cabinet.
John Ray?
That was the first game I worked on, by the way.
Oh, John Ray did subs.
What was the big? I'm
John Ray?
It was Wolfpack, and that was the first game I worked on.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I inherited.
Yes, that one.
Yes,
I love that thing.
Huh.
Damn.
Oh, I never saw that.
That was a great game. But talk about a game
prototype.
Looks like it came out of a county fair.
Yeah. So the monitor's like inside that column in the middle?
Yes.
You went around
Holy
360.
shit. Oh, that's awesome.
So the monitor moved with your periscope kind of thing.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And it used the steering wheel mechanism so you can know where you were turning.
I don't think I could play that while drinking, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. There's a game where
it's like
no
the
one
tea
can ever
cups.
see what you're playing.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Maybe if I was 12.
It'd be so
So
cool
that
if
says
some,
it was a prototype. So that was never in production.
That was actually a fun game. I like that game though. There's an old electromechanical submarine game, where the boats go along the horizon and you shoot and little lights look like do you know the game I'm talking about? It's electromechanical. And that was an electronic version of the same type of game.
Okay.
You could chase, except in this one you could chase the boat. So if the boat was going around, you could chase it.
Wait. It's like VR before.
it'd be so
VR.
cool to see some of these old cabinets eventually get remade by somebody. It's like the Atari airport cabinets. Those are so cool looking.
The ones that kind of wedge around in a big
Yeah.
circle.
Oh my god, I would love to have one of those.
Talk
Those
to
are
Scott.
so cool.
He'll build you anything.
Right, there you go.
Maybe remake Hercules into a playable.
I mean, I could build stuff, but you don't know if it's the right dimensions. Or...
Wait, no, hang on. So Scott took my Major Havoc back to his shop, took it all apart, measured everything, got all the drawings for it, put it back together. So now he can make that cabinet again.
That's how he did it?
Yes.
He reverse enginered it? Wow.
Reverse engineered it. I don't know how much he took apart. I know there's parts still missing that he owes me. So
Missing the control panel. Thanks.
Because I know he got a lot of plans out of the documentation that was in the back of Atari
he
when
wanted
it
to
shut
see
down.
the original one. So he took it and did all this measurements and stuff on it to get real accurate drawings.
We got a question.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
maybe
the one from Mark is a good one in the chat. Mark, is that what you're going to read?
No, but
the Major Havoc one.
No, you go ahead and ask that then.
There
it is.
Yeah, in the YouTube chat, Mark is asking, were the Major Havoc conversion kits planned from the start, or did I come much further into planning?
That came later. I think Major Havoc would have done much better if it had been a Raster game, if it could have been done, because by that time the arcade owners had just had it with vector generators. Because the monitors were burning out all the time. I put a lot of software into to try to prevent that stuff from happening. But no, they didn't. So then they decided they had a bunch of boards they made. It didn't sell as well as it could have because it was XY, but they used them for retrofits and the Tempests and Black Widows, and I think there's one other. Unfortunately, the monitors in those games are slower than the one that was designed for Major Havoc.
Right.
That's why you get so much flicker.
Oh, okay. That's where the argument between the Ampliphone and the 6100 comes into play, I suppose.
And the vector generator design is slightly different.
Okay.
Were the vector cabinets more expensive than the Raster standard?
Cabinets?
You mean the monitors?
Sorry, monitors.
Monitors.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I could probably look it up by looking at one of my.
I think in the early days, I think at first they were, and then they eventually kind of balanced out, but I couldn't say for sure.
No, that's just the operators were tired of them. They blew up all the time because the screen you see is the center of 9, so you can draw way outside, and then that's why you get such smooth scrolling. Except that if the monitor tries to draw out there, you're putting this huge current in the deflection amp to draw, and it would just pop the transistors because you were pushing them too far.
Right.
Wow.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
That's
how you get the smooth scrolling issue. So I wrote software in my vector generator. If it was more than a certain amount, I just stopped drawing and I clipped it.
I did an Apple II ripoff of that game.
Which one?
Seawolf, the one in Danger Screen.
Oh, I only saw it go by really quickly. So
Actually, that's Wolfpack.
Is that Wolfpack? Oh,
yeah, that's Wolfpack. Incredibly
one of the
simple
wolves.
display.
Yes.
So Wolfpack was before Seawolf then.
It was 78, it said.
We were still in 1265, right, Ed?
78?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
78.
it said 78.
Yeah, we were still in 1265 when that was done.
There until the early 80s.
Yeah, Wolfpack was the one we saw that cabinet. Okay, yeah.
I have a question from Gabriella.
Yeah,
Gabby's got a question. She asks, How does it feel? I guess this goes to everybody. How does it feel knowing that you have influenced so many people with the games you've created
We're sorry.
that would continue for generations and become a big part of the gaming community?
We apologize over and over.
Yeah, I've been accused of stealing everybody's milk money, like my games.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Bully.
Oh yeah.
A typical answer, someone will say thanks for the games. I always say thanks for the quarters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's appropriate.
Ouch.
Like a T-shirt.
I think it's humbling.
I keep getting asked too, don't you get a collection of the money that the
Yes, that's a common question. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the same
And you guys
royalties
are
as
mad
the
about that
console
one.
people. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There's nothing really to be bitter about.
Sure there
Oh, come on, you can try.
Sure there was.
No.
Come on, Ed.
It's the same thing that, like baseball players went through. In the early days, they made squat. Now they're multi-billionaires. It's the way of all things. I was really touched, though, by Ernie Klein's Ready Player One and now Ready Player Two.
Yeah.
They were, that hit me really. I mean, I was just blown away by the book. I thought it was fabulous.
The book was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The movie sucked.
Fun.
But,
I liked Ready Player
Well, there
Two.
have
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
There have been tributes, that have been done in documentaries and other things like that, and they're cool and all. But when especially now at my age, our age, when you get full-grown adults come up and say, "You did that? Wow, as Ed said, you wasted all my milk money," or "I had so much fun with that." It makes you feel pretty good. But I don't know, that game was that movie was a revelation for me. Just
Movie or book?
Huh? The book.
The book.
Not the movie.
Ready Player One. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
movie.
I think they talk
Ready
about a
Player-
glitch in one of the games too. I think was it Tempest? They talk
Tempest,
about
yeah.
There's a
What?
glitch. Was that a real glitch that they talk about in the
I
book?
can tell you exactly why that happened.
Yeah.
No, that was
So
a,
we were supposed to put in code to stop people from copying the games. So one of the ways of doing that was to execute what you drew. So Tube Chase had that. I think Major Havoc had it. And at the very last week, David decided to move the Atari message over a little bit and forgot that he used the location and it's what it was writing as the values for copy protection. So the game at some point would say, "Oh, this is a copy because the Atari message is in the wrong place." And based on the score, would decide to just throw credit into the game.
I think Wreck-It Ralph had the glitch in it, right?
Yeah.
But Owen did one of the coolest things. I think in Mike Alba with Sebring, where you had the two ROMs, and we had the games all have self tests. But if you did the ROM check with Sebring, if you plugged them in the wrong socket, it would still boot up, and instead of saying ROM OK, it would say ROM KO.
With a word that said the ROMs are in backwards, stupid.
Wow.
Mike and I were like there. We had had some pizza, and we go, "Now what?" He goes, "We can do a position independent test routine." Okay, so we sat down and wrote this thing. So yeah, you could swap the ROMs and it would still boot. Oh, that was a Michael idea. I can't take credit for that, but I laugh about it all the time. And someone in the production actually had put two ROMs in backwards and saw that, and I got a call saying, "What does this mean? What does it say?" He says, "The ROMs are in backwards, stupid." I said, "Okay."
My work here is done.
I am done. Drop my
help. It was only two EPROMs, so it was pretty easy to switch them.
Yeah.
We had too much time on our hands that night.
We got another question from Andy Baldwin asking, "What happened to Ed's gold Asteroids cab?"
Oh yeah.
First of all, it wasn't mine.
Who got that?
Atari built it. They put it in the lobby of 1272, and it became Turtleroids for a while when we wanted to move Frank Ballou. But I think it ended up Ken Fedesna's home because it got shipped off to Midway, and I think it ended up in. Last I heard from Scott Evans, I think he said it was in Ken.
I wondered what had happened to that.
You need to tell the story of why it was Turtleroids.
Okay. Every year we would go off site and we do brainstorming on game ideas for probably the next year or so. And every year, Mike Alba proposed this turtle race game where the idea was to start yelling, and
every damn year.
every year.
That was a great idea too.
And so Frank Ballou got up and said, "No more, I don't want to hear nothing turtles." And so we'd had wind-up turtles, and we'd have one of the waiters bring him a drink with a wind-up turtle in it. We do everything we could to think of turtles. We even converted the gold asteroids to turtleroids. So instead of the saucer coming out, there's this turtle coming out.
Turtle would come out.
Awesome.
Yeah, the control would have been a microphone. You had to encourage your turtle, but if you were too loud, it would pull its head and legs into its shells.
It actually was. It actually was a good idea, Peter. It would have been.
It was.
But it wouldn't work in an arcade. It wouldn't work in an arcade with all that noise around, right?
No. It was before its time. Is the problem?
Before near field mics, right? Yeah.
It would work great in a bowling alley when all of a sudden people started yelling while you were bowling.
Yeah.
Someone gets a strike. The turtle stop.
No, and Mike had another great audio game idea way
Wasn't
back
that
when
Beathead?
that's doable now. No, that too. But no, there was one where you would call it was a game for very stereotypical. But it would be one side of a conversation, kind of an adventure game. You'd call and I think it was called Gossip or something like that.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, you'd call and tell it. There'd be an evolving story, and they'd tell you a situation and ask your advice, and you'd give your advice, and then it would call you back after a certain amount of time and unfold the next part of the story. It was kind of a roll your own adventure. And he was talking about this in the 80s, maybe. It must have been way before phones were able to do anything
on
like that.
the text Elijah.
Yeah.
Elijah.
Elijah.
Do you
I don't know
remember
if those of you who are too
the-
young to know Elijah. It was a teletype game or a terminal game that would sort of ask you questions. You say, like, I don't like my mom. Why don't you like your mom? What's wrong with
a fake psychiatrist? Yeah.
And it was to prove that the
pre-Siri
was to not tell a paranoid patient from a computer.
Right.
Like a Turing test kind of thing.
The therapist would
but
ask,
very, very rudimentary. You can still
Right.
find Elijah
the
online.
therapist would ask a question, and the computer would respond like a paranoid person would.
or
Throw it right back at you.
or a therapist, right? Answer a question with a question.
And so it was basically proving the therapist couldn't tell a difference between a paranoid patient and this program called Perry. I actually played with it in the 1970-71 up at the Stanford AI lab. And I was really impressed.
For the time it came out, it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
But after about 10 minutes on it, you start to see the same messages over again. So
Yeah, it would throw things back at you.
there you go. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
So say my mom.
Now
Press
point on the
one.
teddy bear where your mom touched you.
Shut up.
That's funny.
Yeah.
This was earlier.
You know what's funny is
Hours of entertainment right here.
What's funny about this is they've programmed in the delays that an old computer would have taken.
That's awesome. The suspense is terrible. Yeah.
Like it was thinking about it.
Yeah.
What's good about it?
The suspense is terrible. He's gonna go this time. I hope it'll last.
You am broken. Tell me more.
Yeah, broken. Quack.
Oh well, whoop.
Somebody referenced Quack in that was all. I like that game.
Oh yeah.
I like that game
That
too,
was a
but
Cerny game.
typical of Mark's games.
Yeah, that was Cerny.
hard.
Yeah,
It was too hard.
Cerny.
That had a touch screen.
Anything Cerny
Yes.
did was hard.
Do you remember though? It had a touch screen.
Yes.
But it had, but you could only put one finger in. If you put two fingers in, it would screw it up. Because it had LEDs.
That still happens today, Owen. When we play Mega Touch, like the countertop bar games,
Right.
if two people are trying to play, it confuses it.
It screws it up. Well, this one
Yep.
was just, a bunch of LEDs and a bunch of readers, and it would see where your finger went.
Oh, I didn't know
It wasn't
Quack
actually
was a
touching the screen.
There was actually for a very brief time a true stereoscopic 3D vector display that we had. and it was done with two rotating discs of clear plastic with a shutter. Half would be black on each side, and they'd alternate sides, so you would be able to sync up the monitor and show the right eye one image and the left eye another
I
image.
thought it was the same disc that just spun.
Yeah.
It may have been. I don't actually recall, but yeah, that was wild to get stereo by spinning this disc really fast in front of your eyes.
Oh, Vectrex had that. Yeah.
Yep, it did.
Spinning disc goggles.
So I'm
Yeah.
old enough to remember the original color TV that was done that way. They had an RGB disc in front of it, and they put one in front of the camera.
How did they get the code for this?
It's Quack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are the ROMs out for this one?
So the goal was to get your ducks from the upper left-hand corner down to the river at the bottom.
Yeah, this is in Maine. It's kind of fun to play. Actually, I did play this.
Yeah,
It is fun to play.
I've never seen
It would have
this.
been better though if I could
A
just
lot-
swap two tiles.
You
A lot of phone games based
ducks
on this.
get killed
Yes.
so fast.
Yeah, see, when Mark was doing this, I said I want to just be able to touch two tiles and swap them instead of having to slide it like a 9 puzzle, like a 9 puzzle. This one, you had to slide them
Yeah, this is
around,
like based
which
on
took
those
too long.
old, numbered puzzles you had to get in order back.
Yes.
You know?
It would have been much better if you could just swap two tiles.
Yeah, there's only one place it can go, so why would you need to slide it?
Well, you had to slide things around really fast, but the ducks moved too quickly for you to get the piece that was in the lower right corner up to the place you needed it.
Well, now see, that's a toy that's probably lost since the 60s, those, right? I mean, they used to come in a little plastic frame with little plastic.
I remember that.
Little chiclets. Yeah.
Got it as prizes at birthday
There's
parties
actually
and
iPhone games based on that now.
My 7-year-old just played some sort of level of Mario or something like just the other day.
Say that again. What game?
Mario.
We have to give him shit every time.
Yeah, but do you drive a Camaro or do you drive a Camaro? Come on.
Is it decal or
Touche.
decal?
No, he drives like Camario.
Is it about or about?
A
I'm
boo.
Canadian. I speak proper English. Come on.
I know we got our Canadian friends out there.
Hey, Peter,
Right.
Peter, I may have one of those puzzles right next to my Rubik's Cube with all the stickers taken off.
Yeah.
Because it was always done. Yeah. it's like-
There was a question in the chat. I'm not one of the hosts here, but it was an interesting question, I think, for Peter about his work on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, I missed it.
And the licensing work with
Well,
Lucas.
first off, thank you for monitoring because we can't keep up with it. So
I missed that one. I've been trying to keep
jump,
up on both
jump
chats.
right
We have
in.
two
If you see
chat
something that's
areas.
interesting, yeah.
I like that question because I worked at EA and we had lots of issues with Lucas on various games, and I never talked to Peter about that with Indiana Jones.
Well, yeah. If you guys are in the chat, by all means.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember it being
Is
a
this
big
the IRC
problem.
chat or what chat?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
IRC. Yeah.
Yeah, because
We
we
have
were
the YouTube
pretty.
chat and the IRC chat.
It's in the IRC link. Is
Okay, I'm only seeing the Zoom chat. But no, we worked pretty closely with the guys at ILM on that one. We approached them after the first movie, and they said, we're making a second one. So they actually suggested we do Temple of Doom. So we got to see the script early, and we were going to do a Laserdisc game of it. Because we went up there and got to, I think it was probably Mike Halley. We went up to ILM in San Rafael, and where they were filming the mine chase scene and all that stuff. And we were gonna do Laserdisc of that, but then we realized, they're spending, however many million on 4 minutes or 3 minutes of footage, and we said no, for a Laserdisc we're gonna need like 45 minutes, 50 minutes for all the alternative, and so it budgeted out at about a $40 million game.
Wow.
So we switched.
Harrison, okay, you got to rewind. We're going to put you over here. Shoot it again.
So when we were doing log here. Hey Peter, when we were doing the golf simulator, it was also a
Just pick
Laserdisc
a nickname and just hit login. That's all.
No, there's the question here that's good for Ed Log. It's talking about the Roadrunner game.
Yeah, that was a Laserdisc game.
The Blasphemy.
Originally a
Roadrunner.
Laserdisc game.
Yes, Roadrunner was a Laserdisc game. And it was
No. Let me read the question, Ed. Let me read the question.
All right.
It says, question, were there any sticking points with licensed games, Indiana Jones, Star Wars? For example, for the first time, because of an Atari game, the Coyote could actually catch the Roadrunner. Did anyone at Atari, see this Looney Tunes satellite for what it was. Will any of you now denounce this game?
Warren.
But it was a Laserdisc game. And when you managed to kill the coyote, it would cut to the appropriate actual real cartoon that Chuck Jones written.
It was great.
It showed, him getting hit by a car, blown up by dynamite, whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was a combination of real cartoons with video game footage. And it was a problem trying to get, because the Laserdisc background was the playfield. We had some registration problems. That was a little tricky. But the real problem was we took it out on field test and it didn't do great and it didn't do so bad, so they couldn't kill it. And they didn't want to release it as the Laserdisc game, so they said, why don't you put it on System 1?
Right.
Yeah.
At that point, I was so fed up and I didn't think it was going to work on System 1. And I had another idea I wanted to do instead. So I told him, no, you can give that to somebody else to do. I want to do another game.
That was Gauntlet, right?
Yes, it was Gauntlet.
So Ed, I have to tell you that. So I was sent by Atari for 2 summers to MIT to learn about Laserdisc games, and I came back and I said, "Don't do these because they won't survive the arcade."
Yeah,
and no one
show
listened.
the Laserdisc part.
And what we learned was they didn't survive the arcades.
I didn't hear, Owen. You said you went to MIT for what?
I got sent by Atari for summer sessions in Nicholas Negroponte's machine architecture group, now the Media Lab, to talk about, he basically had classes on doing games in Laserdisc, and what we all came out of at the end was, don't do them. They're not designed to work in an arcade. You shake the cabinet hard enough, the Laserdisc will stop.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, now the original question of license issues, I do remember 2 problems with ILM that were actually kind of funny. One was on Indiana Jones, where we were showing the logo, where Indy's looking at the camera and he's got his hat on, and we'd had to do it on the stamp hardware, I guess it was, and pretty proud of how well it looked. And they're coming in, I think they're looking for something to criticize, so they're looking at it and they said, I don't know, the hat's too high. This is pre-Photoshop, but we had that art tool, I guess, that Hogue had made. So someone was able to rip out a line and lower the hat right in front of their eyes, and that kind of shut them up. They had to
that had to be Alba.
But the other one was with Dennis's game, with the Ewoks. Remember when he was doing Return of the Jedi? And the funny line that I remember from that, he was showing the Ewoks were hiding behind trees. They'd pull ropes, and as you go through, they'd go.
Yeah.
And so they were wearing like blue and red, so you could spot them. And someone looked at them and they said, "No, Ewoks can't wear red. Mauve, maybe." So, it's a little precious for us. I'm sorry.
That's the kind of stuff I remember hearing at EA too. Is that they were really obnoxious sometimes to work with.
I worked after I left Atari and Bally. I actually worked for Berkeley Systems, the guys who did the original screensavers.
You don't know Jack.
Okay. Yeah. And you don't know Jack and all this. So they did a Simpsons screensaver, and the guy who wrote Itchy and Scratchy screensaver on April 4th, it's the one time they would get caught. They'd flip positions. So I can't remember, it was Itchy catch Scratchy or the other way around. And that guy got sued.
Oh, damn.
Because it went against the canon of the, the cat never won, right? The cat always lost. In this case, the cat won. And it basically ruined Berkeley Systems for licensed products for quite some time.
Dang.
So you have to be really careful with licenses because they don't like you changing the characters.
Yeah, they really don't.
And how they found it was, I don't know how they discovered it. It was only what happened between certain hours on April 1st.
I also got a cease and desist letter from the guys who did Sluggo and Mr. Bill telling us that it was not appropriate for Asteroids. And, I didn't create that. Just other people within Atari called it Sluggo and Mr. Bill. But I got a cease and desist letter because somebody put it in the literature somewhere.
In an interview,
Oh, man.
Are you sure you guys aren't working for Disney?
Look, that happened at Apple when I was first at Apple. They named these machines, like there was Piltdown Man, and then one of them was Carl Sagan. And the joke was these were all people these were all things that were phony, right? That was the joke, inside joke, right? So because the machines we didn't know if they were going to get done or not, and somehow it leaked out that one of the machines was named Carl Sagan, and Apple got a letter from Carl Sagan's attorneys saying we couldn't, so we couldn't use the name, so it was called
Boneheaded
BHA was the replacement name, which everybody laughed inside stood for butt-headed astronomer.
I got a cease and desist letter from Jean-Luc Ponty's lawyer one time.
Really?
Ooh.
Do you remember the Rothberg synthesizer?
Yes.
On the 800? One of the
You
tunes
want one? I
I
still
did
have
on
mine in the garage if you'd like it.
I'm sorry?
I still have mine in the garage if you'd like it.
If you can get the code onto one of the simulators, if you've got the one that does Prelude and Fugue in C minor, I would love to get that. I don't have that version anymore.
I still
or
have
Bolero, I'm sorry. Bolero. I don't have
the Atari 800 it plugs into, so I might still have the code.
Yeah, find out. But in any event, because I did New Country, they sent me this letter, and at the time, I was still with Atari, and Atari owned Warner Electric record label. So fortunately, I knew Claude Nobbs, who was the director of the Montreux Jazz Festival, and he was also the director of Warner Europe, the record label at that time. So he was able to call off the dogs because I didn't know what to do. I wasn't making money from this thing. I was just giving it away, and it sucked compared to listening to the record. I mean,
wait, but wasn't I think the best one was Dan Pliskin's Beethoven's Bathtub.
Disco Dirge.
Well, no, he did that. He did this thing where he took like clips of Beethoven music and then algorithmically stuck them together. So you would think you recognized the music, but you weren't quite sure. And it says name of it was Beethoven's Bathtub.
The other licensing issue you had, Ed, was with Anna McCaffrey.
Oh,
well, that's when we were talking about that earlier, licensing games. That's when I left Atari, and I left Peter in the lurch working on the game that became Firebeast because they could not come to terms with Anne McCaffrey. It was originally designed to be the Dragon Riders.
Yeah.
You
loved that little worm so much so that it appearance in another game.
Well, it showed up in.
It was pretty well. The best story was Gabe, my son. His freshman year, he was taking a computer course, and on Parents' Day, I'm sitting in class with him, and the instructor is describing this algorithm, which is the frickin' worm algorithm, and he wants them to be able to program this in JavaScript or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm nudging Gabe, going, "That's my code. I did that."
That's my baby.
It's the same code in Snake Pit, right?
Yeah.
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 Well, a little bit more advanced in Snake Pit, but yeah.
I got a question. Did any of you guys end up with sons or daughters that are making video games or programming?
Oh God, I forgot to have kids. Sorry.
Well,
yeah, sorry.
My daughter was the one of the IT people at Georgetown when that was her job while she was going to school. But it was interesting. There's another little story as a sideline. I'm not sure if it's really relevant, but when her first class there, actually, she had two classes when you first joined in. One was sort of a not remedial, but they want to make sure you could read and write. And so this particular class gave you a bunch of books to read. And one of them was Will Write for Food or something to that effect. And she happened to know the author.
Oh, wow.
Owen Rubin's wife.
Ah.
Oh, small world.
That was part of her reading. But there was, and in the dorm, she walked over to one of the other guys who was looking over the shoulder, and she looked at us and said, "I know that guy in the book the guy was reading. That's my dad."
Oh.
So apparently they gave him some book on video games. to read. My picture was in it.
Is that Will Write for Food you're talking about?
Yeah, we'll write for food.
Yeah.
The best name. I love that name. I wish I could say where
Yeah.
he came up with it. That was a friend of hers that did that.
But that's just one of the, small world. It's a small
Yeah.
world.
Wow.
Peter, didn't Danny get a job for a while?
He was doing game stuff for a little bit, and he's still doing game, like a Unreal Engine project on the side with some people, kind of for fun. But no, he's
Oh, that's
never
cool.
gotten paid being in the game business.
No, I don't. Yeah, Gabe was one of the gods in one of the many muds that were around in the early days. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember muds, but
Yeah.
my son was a god, did a bunch of programming for that, but that was not for pay.
I didn't know that.
Multi-user dungeon.
Yeah, we played.
No, I didn't know he didn't
Online,
know it.
Spirit Realms Online, Global Wars on the BBSs.
PBS. Yeah,
Similar.
back to that sound again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dial-up sound, yeah.
I
that was
hate to
that was
admit
the
it,
magic
I
sound.
I had a demon dialer.
Realms
Those
Elite.
ones that they saw in what was it? What was the name of that movie?
War Games.
War Games.
Actors,
Yeah.
board games.
There you go.
I had a second phone line, and I used to leave it run all day long, and come back and find all these computers. So,
Yeah, I wish we had. a second
so I'll
phone
tell
line.
an Atari story that I can probably tell now because probably the government won't come after me anymore. Before I went to Atari, I did some work at the ARPA at NASA Ames on the ARPANET, writing these end drivers for what was then called the ARPANET, to soon to be the internet. And when I came to Atari, I had a terminal and a modem in my office, and I used to hack the ARPANET because I was looking for colleges that were on there. And I get this thing that says login, and that's all it says. And with the help of some very clever people at Atari at the time, we discovered what the machine was. We're able to break into it and started playing Crothers and Woods Adventure. I don't know if you guys know that, the old terminal adventure game. You're standing by a well house, and you would give it
Eaten by a grue.
Oh, Zork.
Zork was an extension of that.
The original
And
adventure.
we'd play that after work. We'd huddle up in my cubicle and we'd all play that game after work. One night it gets interrupted and this guy goes, "Who the hell are you?" We had
damn.
a super user account on
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was some guy in a college, so I told him who I was, and bam, the thing gets disconnected and the phone rings. And he goes, "How did you do this?" And like 3 days later, the guys in the black jackets and the white shirts
No.
guys came out to have a very long talk with me. It turns out I had broken into MITRE, which was a Department of Defense computer.
Oops.
Whoopsie.
So the movie War Games was written.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, shall we play it? I was
We
looking
were
for that
close.
soundbite.
I was thinking
So
of
it
weird
turns
science
out
myself,
They had
but
installed a new machine.
Enhanced.
They installed this new machine, just plugged it into the network. They didn't set it up. And we recognized it as a Digital Equipment Corporation machine. We used a field service password to log into it, because that's every new machine has that. We created a super user account on it and played this game for a while. And I wasn't supposed to talk about that for a long time.
real question is, what's the game doing on there?
Because it came with the machine.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like when you install old Linux, Mock, they had a lot of like text games on their network.
Yeah,
Sure.
And
Oh.
We had
because
that
it was
Plato
invented-
terminal. Oh, and we
Yeah.
had that Plato terminal for a while.
That's right. We had Plato later on.
That was
But
fun.
the only thing that saved my butt in that whole thing was I had a clearance because I was working at NASA Ames, but I didn't have a need to know. So that was the problem. But it was all done on a Model 33 paper teletype. So behind the teletype was stacks and stacks of paper of what we had been doing. So they just sat this one day with me and going through it all and realized, well, why did you go to this directory? And what were you doing there? Well, we wrote this program to find out what the machine was and ran it on the machine. And we knew more about the machine than they knew about the machine.
Wow.
What year was that?
God, that had to be 78, somewhere around
Wow.
there. 78.
He had a Group 6 access.
It was a little scary because I felt like I was being watched after that, you know. It's like,
Probably were.
well, the weird part was about 6 months later, I get a phone call from MITRE offering me a job.
No.
And I told Lyle Raids to one of the senior people there, I said, "Just offer me a job." He goes, "They don't want you to give you a job. They just want to know where you are."
At all times. Now they do with your phone.
Here's an anklet.
Okay, we have an Indiana Jones question.
Oh, Indiana Jones.
Okay. This comes from Gabby. What are the thuggy guards saying when they're going, "Whoa"?
Boy.
No, they actually say stuff, but that she's asking, what are they saying?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, was it Hal Cannon? I can't remember who created those. That was early when we first had a sound department. I think one was like, we used to think it was only Gutter Butter was how we called it, but I don't think we knew that when we recorded it.
I swear one of the lines says something like, "Alibaba rule the world" or something.
Oh yeah,
like
well
that.
those came from the movie. Yeah, it was when you whipped them and the guys just stuck out their starfish pose and fell.
Yeah,
we had a variety of kind of random sounds there. I can't remember the session where those came from. It must have been fun.
Was it like the rhubarb word? That's what you say in movies in a crowd. They have a bunch of words. You said it sounds like a conversation in the back.
Yeah. No, I think we probably let the sound guys just kind of give us some filler sounds. Said we need four sounds and have fun, do something.
Yeah, crowd sound.
Funny.
Yeah, Earl Vickers was good at that stuff.
Yeah.
Bro, I remember Earl.
Yeah, that is a hard thing, right? There's so much interesting trivia about games like that. The one I hear most was from RBI Baseball, actually, and from the consumer version. There's a lot of people who love that game and they want to know the subtleties about it that I haven't a clue. And probably never did.
Was Relief Pitcher, that was a System 1 game, wasn't it? Was that a
System 2, I think, wasn't it?
System 2?
Maybe. I don't know.
It wasn't high res, Peter.
No, you're right. So it was System 1.
High res.
Yeah.
There's a question on the chat.
Wasn't that the unreleased prototype?
That's what I was going with it, or that's where I was going with the question, because I feel like there were like 5 or 6 common System 1 games, or I mean common isn't, but I feel like Relief Pitcher, I've never seen one of those.
Well, it's because it wasn't much of a hit, I think, is the problem. But no, it was just the standard hardware. There was nothing weird about it. The button was special. It's the only patent I've ever gotten. I have a patent for that button.
But that begs the question, though, because just about every System 1 game I can think of has unique controls. Like Road Blasters has the yoke. What did Relief Pitcher have? That was
it's the divided button. The button's about the size of the palm of your hand. And it's divided into thirds.
Okay.
Oh, very clever.
And then it has, I think, an analog joystick too.
Okay, I think we're Jimbo. You and I are thinking of a different baseball game.
We're thinking of a different baseball game. Okay.
Nintendo RBI.
Well, no, this isn't. This is RBI you're looking at.
It's right there.
We're talking about Relief
Pitcher.
Pitcher.
There you go. There's a Relief
Pitcher.
Pitcher. Yeah, there it is.
Oh.
You wrote a patent on that? Very cool.
It's like a Simon button.
Yeah. And so that was it's a bunch of stuff didn't work out with that game, but the idea was you could pick the one of your fastball, curveball, or each pitcher had a different third pitch, and then the analog stick you were supposed to be able to put English in it. Yeah, you did. So
Carrie, it's a video version of Pitch and Bat.
Yeah, your opponent wouldn't be able to see it.
That's very cool.
Is that the one with Jack Buck?
Yeah, that's Jack right there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and weren't all the players like people?
Well, there was Owen, right?
Yeah, people from Atari.
Yeah, we put up I came up with all the stats for what people needed and put it up on the wall, and people filled that in.
Peter, I never saw that.
Whoa, that's
Wrigley Field.
Look at the graphics. Look so freaking fancy.
Cool. I think it was a wonderful experiment. I'm really sorry it didn't work because it had a lot cool about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
The animation is amazing. That looks so much more photorealistic than anything else.
Well, the perspective, it's this wacky fisheye. If you had the guy coming in from third, if we had a shot of that, that would be awesome. Because when he came in, he slid foot first, and his foot's half the size of the screen by the time it hits the camera, right?
That's a big shoe.
He's coming down from third base, which is only, 80 pixels away.
Was that Dan Van I just saw at the beginning?
Very possibly, yeah. So we put up all the all these stats of the players, and then left the names blank, and people could wander in the lab and pick a player who they thought matched
That's
them.
very cool.
Yeah, it also was supposed to have AI in it that would, I took a class in genetic algorithms around the time they were kind of new, and we were hoping to have it learn.
Now it looks like Ed Log there that time.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of fun ideas in it. But
oh, sweet.
So there was 2 relief pitchers, because there was an Atari System 1 relief pitcher, and it's not that, I don't think.
No, this looks different.
I put a link in our chat.
Yeah, relief
okay.
picture you link gap looks like hardball. They released for
I'd like you to notice that there was no Plex over the monitor in that game.
Yes, there you go.
We actually had the
Ed
hardball hardball you mentioned, the Cinematronics game with the spring-loaded bat. Yeah, we had that in the lab while we were working on this one, and John saw it.
So this one here,
this looks way more. It looks way more cartoony. The one that they just showed looks.
So that's the unreleased prototype on the System 1.
I don't remember the distinction. That's crazy. No.
The one that we saw in that video looked way more like photorealistic. The animation looks like it looked like a different game.
Interesting.
Right, it was,
no, you're right.
Yeah.
And this is the one with the big foot too. I don't know why it's like this.
Yeah,
honestly, I have lost those years apparently.
So about those parties.
Yeah.
How about that's a great segue into the. So can you guys really tell us about these parties?
So this
I want to ask
from '92.
There's a question on the chat though. I love it. It says, was there anything one of them took that they shouldn't have, code or physical items? Yes, that's all we're saying.
Just give them a one-word answer.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just saw a big stack of paper that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I accidentally left it in my car. What's that, Ed?
When I left the first time, it was squeaky clean.
Oh yeah.
Well, you had to be because of where you were going.
Yeah.
You talked about some of that kind of stuff, Owen, in your other conversation with these guys. I know.
Yeah.
It was the 70s, even though it was the 80s.
You guys probably
the thing that the most memorable about taking things that you shouldn't was when they split the company and they fired all the consumer people that were in that building. The first people they fired were the security people. So all the security people were let go, and then Jack and his buddies went around and fired people. So you'd watch these people carrying development systems and color TVs and stuff out of their car because there was no one to stop them. They just loaded shit up into their car.
Just middle fingers flying all over.
Back up the truck.
I love that.
Yeah, it was.
I'm taking the donut covered.
After they're all gone.
Yeah.
After they were all gone. Rick and I Mark and I went upstairs and we walked through the area, the buzzards swarming, and we found a safe, a big tall safe, and which was locked, and the combination was on the bottom of a desk drawer. So we were pulling out drawers and I found the combination, and when we opened it, it had the main library of all the 2600 cartridges in it.
Oh shit!
Something they should have owned, right? And I was like to Rick, "On, do we give it to him or do we sell it to him?" I called Jack Tramiel's. I got it through to him and said, "I have something over here I think belongs to you," and he hung up on me.
Wow.
I was like, "Come on, Rick, can't we keep these?" So
I have a set of special skills.
Yes.
But there were all the master ROM sets were in that safe.
Wow.
I guess when the movers moved out, they couldn't open it, so they just left it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they're heavy.
Wow, that is amazing.
You guys probably won't be able to answer this because you guys were developers, but nothing exists for any arcade company regarding how many games were manufactured in numbers, But the weirdest thing is there exists a document from Atari dated 1999 with all these numbers on it.
I think Scott Evans, that's one of the documents he had.
Yeah.
It says the production numbers, right?
Yeah.
I also have a list.
Is it a legit list? I mean, everybody follows it, to the team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I remember
because our bonuses were based on how many they built.
Yeah. And when they were really bad with that paperwork too, when we first were shutting stuff down and they moved the back half of our building was pretty much an empty warehouse. And so there were boxes of papers and all kinds of stuff. And after, one of the major shutdowns, I went back there and was flipping through things looking for just scavenge. And I found a big stack of printed out documents, and I started flipping through and I saw it was everybody's salaries. It was financial records. And I was sitting there going, okay, what should I do with this? And I took it into John Ray and said, here, man.
Why does that get
I don't want to know this, but I don't think this belongs in a box in the back. So if I
would you like to work for the government?
Probably, yeah.
Where were you, Peter, at that time?
This was in the one in Milpitas. So
It's
is that 1272?
It's 1272 or no?
No, that was
1501 or
1272 is
1272?
Sunnyvale, right?
Oh, you're right.
One was after
No, there was the big long flat building, one story on one side, two stories on the other.
Yeah, where the
That we
manufacturing
originally-
was in there. No, this.
No, that was all engineering, and then you guys went up on McCarthy and took
Yeah.
over one of the manufacturing buildings.
Oh, I think that was
1501?
after I was gone by then, probably. Because this was in
first building.
1501.
Yes, 1501 was the original.
How much
But
are
anyway,
you
yeah.
holding up Atari stocks paper?
Yeah, I am.
That's a real stock certificate, not to be confused with the phantom stock. That's
I got actually have two of them.
Wow, nice.
Oh wow.
That's probably worth more now than it was then.
Yes.
As a collector's item.
I don't think it's personal because it's 40 years. How much were Atari employees paid back then? Like 20,000, 40,000?
Depends on what year you ask.
Yeah.
82, I guess. Like I would be thinking like 30 to 40, right?
Sycamore.
Huh?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, anyway.
I seem to remember somebody, I can't remember exactly who it was, negotiating for like $30 an hour, and I was thinking that's a lot, man.
I remember my starting salary in 1976. I thought it was a lot of money. It was $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And that was a huge salary then.
Yeah.
That was
here's the thing.
You are lucky. You try to put it to kids today, and they won't believe you.
No, yeah. Well, the reason why I asked that because the arcade during the early 80s was like $1 billion industry, and you guys should have been like players.
Oh, that was some of the
upstairs.
Okay.
Wow.
The consumer guys got some of that.
Got it.
We got a raise in '79 because I kept getting these job offers, and they were way above the salary I was making at Atari. And I kept harassing Lyle about it, saying, "How come they can afford to give me that much, and I'm not getting it here?" And so they did an across the board leveling up of everybody at one point. And then he came to my office and says, "Don't ever do that again."
Yeah.
Give me what I'm worth.
Okay,
Yeah.
What is that a picture of? And now for something completely different.
Here's something we hope you really like.
The large.
Let's see the questions. Oh, that's right. I still had a couple up here. Oh, here's one from this is a while ago from Mike Thomas. Was there any pushback to not having different controls for each one of the Atari System 1 games and control panels? Like, was there?
Oh, because they're
because they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
the
because since it is a kit game, or I mean, a kit system.
Well, so was the Belly Senti system too.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, you could piggyback that one.
No, at Sente, you guys, you were okay with new controllers.
It was designed from the beginning to accept the new control panel.
And I think they wanted it that way. You make more money if you sell the control panel and the board both.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It saved a lot of money not having to rebuild the cabinets and the hardware. So
And really going back in the Atari, like that was their thing too, to have unique controls that for the game. Like that's what made it attractive.
Yeah.
You know, if it's
Well, it's
always a
funny.
joystick and a button, it's
it's funny how long that took. So when I was hired at Atari in '76, they were going from all hardware games to games with microprocessors in them. I was a firmware engineer out of Berkeley, so they wanted to put processors in because the goal was let's reuse the boards we make for games over and over by putting a processor in them. And every game had a new board. Very rarely did we ever reuse a board. And then System 1 finally came along, what, 82, 83?
84.
84. I mean, it took that long.
Yeah,
Marvel.
Yep, Marvel Madness was
was
84.
the first.
It took that long before they actually got that right. Very little hardware got reused. Maybe the vector generator basics got reused, but even those boards were reworked.
Atari Baseball used the exact Atari football hardware.
Okay.
Well, no, we had an extra
See?
2 levels of gray.
Yeah. See, the hardware was changed. We never took the same board and put it in another game. Really, we always.
And some of that was because of audio, because a lot of times the audio is just RC setups, and we didn't have a equivalent of a Pokey or an audio generator chip. Now,
I learned recently, Ed, that
What's
Major
that?
Havoc has the space on the board for the voice chips was never stuffed in there. I had no idea that what's his name, Jess is working on it. He goes, well, how come you guys didn't fill in the voice circuit in here? You know, I had no idea that was on the board.
Well, I'm talking, for example, Asteroids is basically a lunar lander board with different audio and maybe something else for controls, but that was
And
it.
taking away the Lunar Lander didn't have the math box, did it? No.
It wouldn't have needed it.
And Major Havoc was a change to Tempest hardware, because I had to give up because of Asteroids Deluxe. I gave the color hardware to Dave Toyer and had it to him. And then when it came back, I got all the stuff that makes it look 3D. That's the old no math again. That's all done in hardware tricks. Doug Snyder was a genius when it came to stuff like that.
Wait, so Major Havoc was based upon Tempest?
It's the next generation after Tempest.
Holy shit.
Remember, they're heavily modified too, you know.
Well, we also had 3 processors originally on there. One of them is not stuffed on the board because we ended up not needing the third one.
Okay.
And then and good old, I don't know if you guys know the name Scott Swayze.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, if you've been to the California Extreme, Scott's comment was he's not making imitations, he's making forgeries. So I met Scott. He was standing in front of a Major Havoc. He asked me to play it, and he watched me play. He was watching me, not the game. And finally I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, I want to know where you give a funny look or you think something's wrong." Why? And he pulls the cabinet out, turns around. There's this little tiny FPGA board inside playing the game. You know, here's the things it's doing correctly that it should do wrong. And he said, "Okay, I'm going to put those errors in," because he wanted it to be a forgery. And he's the one who told me that we made mistakes in the hardware that he had to add. You know, when he designed it, he corrected them and had to uncorrect them, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to have.
What's your response to something like that? Where it's,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, you want to make it so nobody can tell, because
that's what he says.
There's issues like that, like, you know, where, you know, even people say, like with Dragon's Lair, it's like, well, the screen doesn't go black when I play it now, but in the arcades it did, you know, and that's sort of the same kind of idea that, you know, yeah, you could take those imperfections out, but that's kind of what you want if you want to get something that's exact.
That's part of the charm.
When you put it in
That's
your
the
arcade
nostalgia.
cabinet, a replica, you want it to be exact, or else
He says,
people notice it.
You know, one of the things was, you know, if you spun the wheel too fast, he would jitter because you would spin it faster and the processor could keep up with it.
And keep
so
up
he
with it,
fixed
yeah.
that, and it worked really well. And I said, no, that's not right. That's not to do that. It has this bug, and so he put it back in.
Wow.
Yeah, he wants to do Black Widow, Major Havoc, Space Duel, Tempest. He wants to do a bunch of games. Have one board. Gravatar. Yeah, he wants one board to do them all and do them well. And I think he's going to get there. And then Scott said he'll build cabinets. So, you know, if you want
No lunar lander.
No, it's color, but he could probably do it in black and white. It's not much different.
Just put a filter over your monitor. Just a
gel.
little screen on it. Yeah.
Gel.
A little gel. Yep.
Color removal filters.
I still say Lunar Lander has one of the coolest unique
the
control
controls.
schemes with that giant thing that you move forward. Was that so fun as a kid doing?
Yeah,
that's about as close to Last Starfighter as you're gonna get. Yeah.
Its big speaker in the bottom though for the bass too was like that rumble would just rumble that cabinet.
There was a problem with that controller though, because the spring Atari got screwed because a little kid was watching his brother play, and he had his chin up on the control panel, and the guy crashed and let go of the throttle and slammed the kid back, and he lost a bunch of teeth. And
they had problems with the original steering wheels because people would spin them really fast and go to grab it and put their hands in where the spokes were.
Yeah.
They cut your hand pretty
your finger goes in the hole and breaks it or something.
That's why later wheels were like solid cones, so you couldn't put your finger through them.
Mm. I know you don't think about that stuff when you're,
Well,
building
Dave
your prototype.
But you also can't fix stupid.
Oh, but the lawyers can benefit from it.
Yeah, they lick
They're
their
about
lips.
the only ones, aren't they?
Dave Steuben, one of the managers there, he knew how to fix that. Like he was always the I remember two things very vividly. They came out with this new coin door design, and the guy was bragging about it that you can't be kicked in, and David reels back and puts his foot right through the damn thing.
Oh yeah,
The other
watch
one
me.
was they were doing this race car cockpit, and I don't remember what game that was for. And
Dave
it had
Stern
this-
was about 6'4" and about 330 pounds.
yeah, and there was looked like a place where you put gas in the top of the car, and they said, "Oh, no one can take that off." And Dave goes whack, and it just goes flying across the room.
I remember that one.
That's a fun
That's-
job.
It's like, and he just like stand there with a grin on his face. What else he got?
That was your QA, right?
He was sort of built-in QA of the hardware. Yeah,
He was a brilliant engineer too. He did.
he really was. Yeah, I think he's the one who took the door down at Pebble Beach, right?
The door jamb, not the door.
The whole door, the door and the jam and everything. Yeah, we got thrown out because of that. Someone had locked him into his own room, and he just leaned into the door and took the jam and everything right down. That was a crazy time. I remember somehow the glass coffee table got broken.
That was
So
Chicago.
It was
Yeah.
a wood frame, yeah. And was it Gene Lipkin that came with a plate and went to put it down the table and let go, and it just fell through to the floor because there was no glass there. Yeah, some of the
Chicago is more tolerant than Pebble Beach.
There's a lot of stuff in Chicago that will never get, revealed to.
Are we talking about the bed on the balcony?
But that was up at Sonoma Mission Inn.
I thought that was in Chicago.
No, Chicago was the ice swan in the bed.
And the drip circuit I stuck in
And the drip
pinball
circuit.
game. Wow. I made a little circuit that went just randomly, and we put it into the pinball game that was going to be in his room, and it would randomly something start this drip noise.
This is Frank Lou. We always picked on Frank Lou, who was the head of sales.
And it was in the game, right? So we just hooked it to the speaker. So we used the speaker that was in the game, and it would stop, just drip for a while and stop. The weird part is that I got stopped at the airport because I was carrying this electronic circuit and two big dry cell batteries.
Yeah.
And they wanted to know why I was carrying this on the plane. Well,
It's for my Walkman.
Yeah.
they're those, they used to call them alarm batteries. They're about that big around, about that long. They have two screw tabs on the top.
Radio Shack sold them.
Yeah.
Radio Shack sold them. Yeah, they'd last a long time.
And they used them in all the movies for drawing bombs. So
Right, exactly. So that happened to me twice because when I went to Japan on a trip for Atari, you're supposed to take gifts, and so Mark said, "We'll take care of it." And they gave this big box of wrapped gifts. They didn't tell me what was in the box of wrapped gifts, and I carried them on, and it went through the scanner, and it was these round stone clocks and golf balls. So it looked like 3 round circles and a little clock mechanism. That did not go over well. They stood there and they unwrapped like 6 or 7 of them to make sure they were all the same.
Were they expecting Atari stuff?
No, the guy let me look at it. It looked like a timer and a bomb.
Like a bomb. Yeah.
Oh, like, seriously? You didn't tell me what was in that thing. I would never have carried that if you had told me.
makes you even more suspicious.
Yeah. Then of course, stupid answer, right? Who packed this? Not me.
Yeah. You pack your own luggage.
No one ever says that, right? This was given to me by my marketing team today.
The bag was dropped and I picked it up.
Yeah.
Well, they asked that same question at the check-in. Is this all your stuff and did you pack your luggage? Who's going to say no?
Right.
I can't
Right
tell
over
a
here,
lie.
We're gonna do a cavity search.
Oh no, I got the stuff this guy just walked by and handed to me.
Hey, it's not a lithium battery.
Would you please just take this on the plane with you?
Hand it to me later.
Oh man.
Yeah, gullible.
Well,
I
shit.
hate to be the
It's
first.
Yeah.
it's
First
about that
one,
time. I
but
think.
it's
Yeah,
about
you guys
that,
ready
yeah.
to wind it
I think.
wind it up?
Yeah.
I'll
I
say
would
that one comment that someone made on Clav in when we had posted about doing this chat said something that I think a lot of people completely agree with, which is this is Brent Radio, and he asked if you can please tell each of you thank you for helping really make his childhood. So
Yeah.
We all kind of
It
feel
goes
that
for
way,
all
I
of us, for
think.
Goes
sure.
for all of us, yep.
Very
Yeah.
welcome.
We had a good time doing it for the most part.
We'll discuss the little part afterwards. No,
There were
just
some
kidding.
non-good times, you know.
It's for a lot of 3-minute experiences.
Right.
It was a different type of engineering environment.
The second most fun 90 seconds I
3
ever had in
minute
my life.
Yeah,
experience.
until I got to be a grown up. Then I went to 4 minutes.
There were project deadline stuff, things that you would work. I mean, I remember on Havoc working like 4 days and nights straight.
Yeah.
With Mark and I just sitting in the lab. People and like Dave Toyer kept bringing us in food because he was in the same lab we were in.
You mean you weren't just sitting in a hot tub?
Yeah.
Choking up? Come on.
I think I
Didn't
lived
have-
in the
didn't
Marble
have time
Madness
for the
lab
hot
for 9
tub.
months.
We did set off the burglar alarm though, because Toyer brought in these speakers that were probably 6 feet high.
Oh yeah.
And he stuck them
Oh,
up on
yeah.
the shelf. And at about 8 o'clock at night, he would just crank up, this music, and it would be just big bass beats and stuff. And it turned out it rattled the sensors that looked for glass breakage. And so we walked out one place, and these police are shining lights through the window.
What's going on in there?
And we had no idea that it was doing that.
It'd just be like,
everybody knows.
Exactly. No, but
Maybe not that.
He was playing what was it called? Men Without Hats, Men with
Safety dance.
Safety Dance. Yeah, he
There you
played really loud.
But,
So
but
even
Owen,
if the alarm went off,
Go
you
where
couldn't
you
hear it.
want
you never
Your
really
friends
had a death
behind.
march until you worked with Rick Moncrief. though. I'm sorry.
I did work for Rick Moncrief.
He's the king of the death march.
Yep.
Mm.
The golf simulator, we went through a couple of those.
Yeah, the Army Battle Zone thing was 3 months lost of my life, just gone.
That's a game I wish we could have sold. Was
Yeah.
the golf simulator, actually.
Oh,
You were
I
a
was thinking
little
Army
older.
Battlezone.
Yeah. We did this
Yeah.
very cool thing where you
oh
hit
wow,
the golf ball.
a vector 3D golf game.
No, it wasn't vector. I must admit, it wasn't. It was a laser disc. And
Oh, that's probably even better.
So it was you hit a real golf ball into a net, and it was a projected screen behind it.
Yeah,
And
they
it-
have that now. So.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
shit, that was
the
ahead of
joke
its
was
time.
that we said, well, of course, people are going to want to play all the greats, so you're going to need to send us over to Ireland and Scotland to record golf. We
Yeah.
did this whole
Look at
budget
photos of all this
take
stuff.
Photograph all these golf courses. Have to play them 2 or 3 times to make sure we got all the
There you
pictures.
go. Properly simulate them in the game. Yep.
We did get permission to shoot the Los Gatos golf course. They closed it for an hour so we could do that. So
Wow.
you'd shoot one picture, then you'd go out and you shoot 3, then you shoot 5, and you keep going wider as you go out. And so the game was, you'd hit the ball, and we calculate where it would drop, and then you would get to that spot on the golf course and hit from there again. And you
Oh,
used a real
cool.
club and a real ball, which everybody thought was really stupid.
Yeah, now people the big nuts have the projectors and they're actually I have a friend of mine that's always like that, and I think he's nuts, but
So they were
Has his own
they would
insurance.
They were thinking they'd have a stack of laser discs, and you'd pick the golf club you want, and you drop that into the unit, and that
oh,
golf.
sweet.
Gabby wants to
All
let
right,
you guys
my
know
9 iron
that
is going in. Yeah.
she wants to say thank you all for your hard work and all you did.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is.
Make such amazing games.
So if you
Was that
actually
the
can
golf
find
game?
that, there is a lesson in there about how to get out of the sand trap. Is this the one?
Oh, no.
This was totally a joke. We hired these guys to show lessons so we could analyze your weight shift and everything. So we really wanted to make it a trainer. And on this disc, there's one where he talks about how to get out of the
Impossible shot out of a
Impossible shot. And the guy did it with a straight face, and we just laughed our ass off when he saw what he did. Keep going forward.
Here's how you hold the stick. Oh, yeah. I don't think you shared your audio, though. There's a checkbox.
No.
Well, you don't need the audio. The visual.
Just show it.
Right. Hi, I'm Troy McClure.
This is not it, but you have to find the one that's closer to the end, I think.
Yeah.
Where he shoots out of the golf. That might be it right there. Keep
It's
going.
getting closer there.
No, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
This guy was so serious. There's one where the ball he puts the ball up underneath the lawn on the lip of the there it is. That's the one. So that's where the ball is. And he's going to tell you how to do this. So this is the random lesson that would come up. And this guy
he's dressed like
dead face. Look at him. He's dead serious. So I can tell you, okay, you got to plant this foot here. You put the other one up here. You get a really good, get your foot in really good. Now he's going to talk about how to grab the club, and you choke up a little bit. You turn the face open, and this is how you make this shot.
I'm hearing stereo almost here. This is crazy.
Is this where he goes, I'll have 6 of those and 6 orange balls?
Watch how he makes this
I know
shot.
you are, but what am I?
What?
He did that straight faced all the way through. It just
Nice.
hard.
All right, that's a
Is
great.
that guy wearing gloves?
Yes, golf gloves.
Golf gloves.
Left hand
Not a
only.
golfer, eh?
Yeah.
So the whole idea was when
Clearly, I golf all the time.
every time you hit a golf
Shooter
ball,
McGavin.
you could get a lesson.
Shooter. Yeah.
Wow.
I will
That's
say,
awesome.
all these guys except for Flanagan, and also last year, usually come up for a little golf tournament I run up in the foothills here.
Nice.
Some of us don't play golf.
Well, you come up
Come
and
anyway.
party.
I don't need that aggravation, Ed.
Go up and heckle him.
Bring the golf cart and drink the beer.
There you go.
I was supposed to be the beer guy one year, but then I didn't get to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to invite everybody.
Thank you, Ed Block. This is a good
Wrapping it up.
everyone, thank you for tuning in. This has been a complete pleasure.
You guys
Lewis, thanks again for wrapping up or getting all these guys together.
We would,
thanks, Lewis.
we would love to have you guys
Yeah,
back,
Lewis,
of
thank you.
course. This is always a hell of a lot of fun, and
I
it
think
was
we'll
great
keep
hearing
the
you guys
link.
tell stories.
We'll keep the link and just pop in occasionally.
You could just
Well,
pop
the
in
link,
whenever you
that's the
want.
thing, though. That's the thing. The link doesn't change from week to week. So,
I know.
so you can pop in anytime.
Come in and hear the story of Radical Bear.
I think we could say you guys have an open invite and you can show up whenever you want.
And if you're gonna take the time to go into the IRC or the YouTube chat, you better come in here.
Oh, now
Why
you tell
not?
me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love to lurk in the IRC chat. I go in every time with a different name now too. So.
Well, thanks everybody for coming.
Yep.
We really
Thank you, guys.
appreciate your
It's
time
been a ton of
and
fun.
everything. It's great to hear these stories and everything. It's been real fun.
And thanks to all the
Yeah,
viewers for the
thank you.
That was a
questions.
lot of fun. Thank you for doing
Yeah,
that.
no, good questions tonight, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. So.
Bye bye.
All right.
See you tomorrow.